Nanny Knows Best. A Bad Boy Romance Audiobook. By Michelle Love. Chapter 1.
Come on, Jordan. Don't tell me that one's enough for you. The night's just getting started, let's catch up. O'Malley slaps me on the back as he laughs loudly, looking around the table for approval. He gets a hearty laugh out of the rest of the crowd, and I smile as I sit back down in the seat I was about to leave. He's right, we haven't been here long, but I'm not much one for socializing. I would much rather be home right now with a whiskey in my hand than sitting here surrounded by these fools getting drunk on scotch. But this is just something that I have to deal with. These men are my investors. They have spent vast amounts of money, time and time again, for the ideas that have popped into my brain, and the last time really paid off. I have finally developed software that is impenetrable. No hacker on the face of the earth is able to get through the digital walls I have set up. With the digital world full of those who would love nothing better than to take every scrap of information a person has and use it for their own good, it's impossible to be too careful. I know it, the public knows it, and these investors know it. Yeah, Jordan. Since when have you been a lightweight? I thought I saw you holding your own at the bar with those pretty ladies at the party last weekend. I cringe at that reminder from one of the other investors of the last party we attended. I don't mind going to the grand openings or parties that are thrown by these other entrepreneurs and investors, but I hate the feeling that I am being graded and judged for all my actions while there. It's no secret that I am a bachelor. My wife passed away nearly 8 years ago, and I've been slowly wading back into the pool of dating ever since. So far there's been nothing serious by any means, but I've been looking for someone to fill the void that is in my, or rather my son's life. I don't need a woman by any stretch of the imagination to make me happy. But I would like a more confident hand in the life of my son, especially since I'm not around as often as I would like to be. Okay, gentlemen. I can stay for a few more minutes, but I don't have all night. There's more work required to keep my business running than just sitting around and talking about it. I laugh off the pressure to stay, but I'm not entirely joking. There's more laughter from around the table, and it's evident that the alcohol is taking a hold of most of the other men there. Isn't that just like Rex? Always the responsible one. I bet the real reason you're looking to run off is to tuck your kid into bed, isn't it, buddy? Brody Pierce, my old colleague and a fellow investor, slaps my shoulder as he sits back down at the table. I have grown so used to going by my last name that hearing him use my first almost makes me cringe. I'm sure his nanny will be able to handle it, I reply with a smirk. The fact of the matter is, Brody's right. I would give anything to see my son tucked into bed for the night. But I'm living a life among the elite in society, and these men are more concerned with the numbers in their bank accounts than they are with anything else in their lives, even their families. And I'm becoming one of them. Why don't you get yourself another wife and forget about a nanny? Brody asks, pouring himself another drink. He's the nosiest of those at the table, but once the question is in the air, they all join in. I know it's going to be hard to get out of answering this line of questioning, but I try to avoid it with every effort I have in me. The last thing I want to discuss with any of these men is my private life. They already know far more about me than I want anyone to know, but giving them personal information about myself is another requirement of this line of work. If I want their money, I have to tell them what they wanted to know. I have to admit, this new software and the things I'm able to do with it because of their money has proven to be one of the best things I've done in my life. Because of them, I am now the proud owner of a multi-million-dollar company, projected to be $1 billion one by the end of the year. I now have the money I need to give my son Brayden everything his little heart could ever desire. Everything, that is, except a mother. He is still quite young, barely 7 years old in fact, and he's struggling every day with this lifestyle we are living. He wasn't used to having a nanny when I first hired one, and he still hasn't yet adjusted. I tell each and every new hire to be patient with him and give him time to warm up to them, but it's not at all unusual for them to quit after just a few weeks on the job. For the most part, the problem has been with the nannies and not my son. He's a young boy with a lot of energy, and he needs a caretaker who's able to understand his needs. He has been through a lot in his young life, and I can fully understand why he chooses to be difficult much of the time. Getting a nanny to understand this, however, has proven to be a bigger challenge than I ever thought it would be. It's not as easy as just going out and getting a wife. You should know that more than anyone, I tease. I come off as a jerk, and that's fine with me. Brody has tried every trick in the book to get a woman to settle down with him, but being the jerk that he is, he can't keep anyone around for more than a few months. He's been married twice, but we don't talk about that. I don't have any issues when it comes to women. In fact, as I recall, I was the one who had to turn several down last weekend to make sure I was taking home the hottest one, he brags. I'm about to respond when my phone rings. A glance down tells me that it's the nanny, and I sigh. Why is it so hard for any of them to handle an evening on their own? I have to take this, I say as I rise. Once again, there's an uproar around the table. My colleagues are used to running their lives on their time. They would never let any personal call, not even one from their wives, disturb them if they are in the middle of drinking with the guys. But this isn't my wife. This is the woman who is supposed to be taking care of my son, and I'm not willing to take any chances. Hello? I ask, allowing my dry tone to hang in the air. Mr. Jordan, I'm so sorry to bother you, but it doesn't seem there is anything I can do to calm Brayden down. He's been throwing a fit for an hour now, and he's not listening to a thing I say. She sounds haggard, but I feel frustrated anger rise in my chest. Why is it so hard to take care of a little boy? Did you try giving him a bath? He likes that lavender wash that I got him, I say, once again allowing a condescending tone to come through. I've tried everything. He's just screaming for you. I'm really sorry to bother you, but I really don't know what else to do. I can hear the worry in her voice, but I know she's more worried about being fired when I get home than about how my son is feeling. I'll be right there, I say after an annoyed pause. The relief is evident in her voice, but there is still an undertone of worry. Oh, thank you, thank you. I'll tell him that you're on your way. Maybe that'll help him calm down. I hope so, I reply. I hear her gasp and start to say something on the other end of the line, but I hang up. I'm fed up with incompetent women, and even more fed up with the lifestyle I'm forced to live, even though I know it's what I need to do to provide for my son. Something has got to give, though, or I am going to fly off the handle at the next person who is unfortunate enough to piss me off. I walk back to the table. Gentlemen, unfortunately something has come up at home. I'm going to have to call it a night. There's groaning again, and several of the other men try to change my mind, Brody being the worst of the bunch. I hold up my hand and glance from face to face. Thank you for having me out tonight, but my son needs me, and I have to go to him. It's clear I'm not going to put up with any nonsense, and several of the investors nod. Oh, Jordan, don't forget that I'm having a party at my hotel Friday night, and you're expected to be there. Mr. Fraser, my top investor, reminds me as I button up the front of my jacket. I cringe on the inside. Right now, I'm not in the mood to even consider going to another party, but these aren't the kinds of parties I'm allowed to blow off. I cringe further as he continues. And you're expected to bring a date. There is cheering around the table, as the others agree. I don't know why they feel that I need a woman in my life, but again, I know my hands are tied. I give him the most confident smile I can muster, and nod. Of course, it shouldn't be a problem finding a pretty young thing to bring along, I say with smirk. There's another round of cheering, and I fight the urge to tell them all to piss off. Good night, gentlemen. You know, Brody says as I put on my hat and give the table a polite nod, a wife would fix this. Screw you, Brody, I say as I turn to go. I hear their laughter again as I walk away, and I know they think I'm joking. But I'm not. I wouldn't mind marrying again, but I can't ever see myself falling in love. I did that once and she passed away. There isn't another woman on this planet like Michelle, and I'm not going to pretend that there is. I fell in love once, and once was more than enough.
Chapter 2.
I roll over on my stomach, burying my face into the arm of the couch and covering the back of my head with the pillow, jamming it against my ears and trying my best to drown out the noises coming from the bedroom. Jasmine has another guy over. He's the third guy she's brought home this week. I close my eyes, trying not to imagine what might be happening behind that door. Jasmine is a dancer. The kind who knows how to captivate a room, and isn't shy about embracing her bold, uninhibited nature. And I don't judge her for it. As long as she's happy with the choices she's making, that's all that matters. What I can't stand are the men she brings home. I've never been the kind of girl to assume the worst about people, but these guys have changed my mind. They're not just here for her, they always seem to test boundaries with me too. And worse, they bring with them things I've made a point to steer clear of my entire life. My dad died when I was 10 years old, and my mother turned to uppers to cope. I spent most of my teenage years taking care of her, helpless as our relationship dissolved before my eyes. When I turned 18, our so-called relationship all but vanished, and the last fight I had with her was the last one I ever intend to have. I hear a loud cry of pleasure from the bedroom, followed by silence, and within a few minutes both Jasmine and this latest fling are walking out of her room to the door. Jas is wearing only a robe, and I refuse to look at the man. Their goodbye is brief, and within moments we're alone. "Sorry, Shoshana, did we wake you?" she asks as she walks into the kitchen. "No, I was already awake," I lie. She starts cooking bacon, and my stomach growls. At 22, I am struggling with what I call my life. I was attending college back home in Portland, but I couldn't stand living with my mother any longer. I had started going to nursing school back home, but with my sudden decision to apply for a transfer down to LA, I'm now in limbo land. I moved in with Jasmine, the only friend I had down here, and I've been sleeping on her couch ever since. I'm waiting to hear back from the college, trying to find a job, and praying to God I'll be out of here as soon as possible. "You hungry?" Jasmine calls from the kitchen. "Yeah," I reply, though I feel guilty. She has done nothing but take care of me since I arrived in LA, without so much as asking for a cent in return. I feel bad for constantly complaining about her lifestyle, even if it's only ever in my head. I vow to stop. "How was work?" I ask as Jasmine comes out into the living room, a plate of food in each hand. She shrugs. "Good enough, I suppose." "Boring." "Have you heard back about that job you applied for yet?" She smiles, and I know she doesn't mean anything by it, but I feel like she's hinting at the fact I should be getting out of her apartment as soon as I can. I shake my head quickly, though I try to appear optimistic as I smile. "Not yet, but I hear it can take some time. They said it can be up to 2 weeks before they match me with a client, and I'm not sure I can wait that long. You've been so kind to me, offering me a place to stay and all. I've got to find some way to repay you." I'm holding myself back, taking small, appropriately sized bites of bacon even though I'm starving. She shrugs once more. "I filled out an application with a local nanny service. It's not a job in the medical field like I would have preferred, but it's with children and I'm good with kids. However, they did say it could take some time before someone chose me. Many parents are looking for a nanny with experience, so I shouldn't be surprised if it took up to a couple of weeks. I'm not worried about it. I know you'll get something," she smiles. I cringe inwardly. She might not be worried about it, but I definitely am. I'm not sure I can handle another night of hearing those kinds of sounds coming from her room, and I really don't want to walk in on anything inappropriate happening on the bathroom counter again. I just wish there was something I could do now. Like, I need money right now. I speak with more passion than I intend to, and she laughs. "You know I could always get you a job," she says with a grin and a wink. I blush. I can't dance. I have no coordination, and I'm not pretty enough. I wish my face wasn't as red as I know it is, but there's nothing I can do about it. She laughs. "You don't have to be a stripper. I mean something more like an escort. Men will pay a lot of money for a pretty girl to go with them to some function, or even just on a date." She speaks about it so casually, meanwhile I can't help but feel horrified. It might be a lifestyle that suits her, but I've barely dipped a toe into that world, and there's no way I can do what she does. The look on my face clearly gives me away. "Oh come on, you don't have to be intimate with them, you prude," she teases. I feel my face flush further, but my curiosity is somewhat piqued. "You don't?" I ask. "Hell number. All you have to do is look like you're having a good time. Ask the right questions, say what they want you to say if you're in that sort of situation, and keep your mouth shut. Really, all you have to do is stand there and look pretty. Maybe let them put their arm around you." She makes it sound like no big deal, but I know there has to be more to the situation than that. What sort of man would pay me to just stand by him and smile? As though she can read my thoughts, Jasmine rolls her eyes. "Why don't you get your computer, and I'll help you sign up for a site. I know a few of them that you would be good at. All we gotta do is put up some pictures of you, write a little profile about what you're looking to get out of this, and bingo, you're in." She reaches for my computer and hands it to me, but I hesitate. Looking up at her, I raise my eyebrows. "And what am I supposed to wear?" It's not like I have a lot of clothing to choose from, and I doubt they're going to be too happy if their call girl shows up in yoga pants. I hope my challenge will make her back down, but she merely laughs with a shake of her head. "Look at us. You and I are like the same size. I'll let you use some of my clothes. I bet you that one silver dress I have would be perfect for this sort of thing." She gets up and heads to her room, and I look at the website she's typed in. I have to admit it does look tempting. At least the numbers do. I'm sick and tired of being broke, and I need to have some sort of income as soon as possible. The longer I look at the website, the more this looks like something I might actually be able to do. Suddenly, another thought enters my mind, and I shake my head when Jasmine walks back into the room. "I can't do it," I say. "Sure you can," she replies. "No, I can't. Jas, I want to go to nursing school. What kind of hospital is going to hire a nurse who was once a hooker?" I look at her with raised eyebrows and she laughs as she sits back down, picking up her plate of food. "First of all, you aren't a hooker, and this isn't a job that will turn you into one. Second of all, you don't have to tell anyone that you're doing this. Why does it matter to anyone else what you do with your spare time? You want to make some money on the side, so here you go." She points at the screen with her fork, but I'm still not convinced. What if they find out somehow? I could get kicked out of school, or my transfer application might just be denied altogether. If I were working in a hospital, I could lose my job. Anxiety is beginning to take over, and I can feel the tension in my voice. She shakes her head once more, and I can see she is completely cool with the idea. I highly doubt that. What hospital is going to care what you did for previous work? I don't think anyone is going to give a damn, but I do know that you are very much overthinking this. She gives me a look that tells me she's unimpressed with my attitude regarding the kind of work she does, and I try to calm down. I have great respect for her, and I don't mean any kind of offense. But I still worry. Though I know she's right about it being unlikely any hospital would give a second thought to what I did before I became a nurse, my mind often thinks of the worst-case scenario. I'm always worrying that something I do might ruin my chances at my dream career. I don't have the greatest track record when it comes to luck, so I always try to be cautious. I still don't like the idea of this very much, I mutter, more to myself than to her. Jasmine laughs and I feel tension in my chest. I don't want to get into an argument with her, but I don't feel she is taking me very seriously right now. I'm about to say so when she speaks up. Why do you have to use your real name? Get paid in cash, use a fake name, and forget that you ever did any of this. Who knows? You might find that you like it better than nursing school. Jasmine winks at me, and I shake my head. Once again, I feel judgment rising in my chest, and I remind myself not to think about that. She has been nothing but kind to me, and it's not fair to her for me to think such things. I look back at the computer screen, and she nods toward it. All you have to do is fill out a profile, and you're good to go. I hesitate for a few more seconds before looking back at her. Are you sure I can do this anonymously? If you want, you can even wear one of my wigs, she says with a laugh. I take a deep breath and let it out on a sigh as I begin filling out the form on the site. She's right, I do need a job, and this is the best option I have right now. Besides, I'm cute. I might find someone who wants to go on a date with me. At least it's moving forward, which is way better than sitting on the couch and hoping to hear back from the nanny service. After all, a couple of weeks with no money is a long time to wait.
Chapter 3.
I stare off into space, my cup of coffee steaming on the table in front of me. I drink it black every morning, and it's all I ever have for breakfast. I'm never hungry in the morning, and I don't bother listening to the rubbish about how important breakfast is. I'm lean and muscular and operate just fine without it, and I don't need anything to add to that. Across the table from me, Brayden is eating his cereal. We are both sitting in silence, he picking out the marshmallows with his spoon and eating them first, and me thinking about everything that has gone down in the past 24 hours. Last night, I arrived home to find Brayden asleep in his bed. He looked peaceful and quiet to me, like the little prince he is. The nanny, however, had a very different tale to relate, and though she looked haggard, I had a difficult time believing he was the terror she claimed he was. Sure, I know he has a tendency to throw temper tantrums, and that he sometimes acts out when he's not getting his way. I know that his tantrums are more than what most 7-year-old children ought to be allowed to get away with, but I honestly don't care. He's my son, he's been through a lot, and I'm not going to discipline him for the crap he's had to deal with in life. But that doesn't change the fact that I'm now facing a problem. I not only have to come up with a date to take to the damn party on Friday, just 2 days away now, but I'm going to have to come up with either a babysitter or a new nanny for Brayden by then as well. There's no way I can bring him to a party like that, and there is certainly no way I can afford to miss it. Pissing off Mr. Fraser would be the biggest mistake I could make right now. It's not something I'm willing to risk. Can I be done now, Dad? Brayden's voice interrupts my thoughts, and I look over at him. He's eaten all the marshmallows out of his cereal, and he's now looking at me with expectation in his eyes. I shake my head. You've got to eat the rest of your breakfast. That's where the good stuff is. I point to his bowl, and he gives me another look, this one full of disdain. I don't like that part, he snaps. I can hear the anger rising in his voice, and I feel the tension in my own chest. The last thing I want to do is argue with him about his breakfast, but I'm a shitty enough father as it is, and I can't let him get away with eating only marshmallows. I know, but it's good for you. Don't you want to grow up to be strong like me? I ask. You don't eat breakfast at all, he replies shortly. I wince. He does have a point. If there's one thing I can say about my son, it's that he's too smart for his own good. He knows far more than I want to give him credit for, and I wonder if this is part of the problem he's having with his nannies. If they're expecting a typical child, who will be happy to play games and get through what few lessons he has in a day, they have another thing coming. That's because I'm already big and strong, I reply rather dryly. He gives me another look, and defiantly shoves his bowl into the center of the table. The milk sloshes around and makes a bit of a mess, and I have to bite my tongue to keep from snapping at him. Brayden, you're going to eat that, is all I can manage to say. No, he shouts. He gives the bowl a much harder shove this time, sending it over the edge of the table and onto the floor. The soggy remains of the cereal come flying out of the bowl and splash on the floor and against the wall. "Brayden Jordan, you go to your room this instant," I shout. I feel myself losing my temper, and I really don't want to. I don't want my son to have memories of me shouting at him in the morning over breakfast, especially considering all that he has been through in the past 2 weeks. The nanny that quit last night had only been working for me for a few days. The nanny before her lasted about as long, as did the nanny before her. It's been one long string of nannies, losing one after the other. They all tell me the same thing when it comes to Brayden. He's headstrong and rebellious. He does things his own way or no way at all. He doesn't listen to anyone, and he's not going to change his mind once he has it made up. I want to think that the problem is with them rather than with him, but I'm starting to see where the issue might be. He runs off to his room, shouting and screaming the entire way, and I sigh as I go to the kitchen to get some paper towels. I find it ironic that I make millions of dollars every month, and yet here I am with no maid to clean up spilled milk. I have a hard enough time keeping nannies around. I don't know how I could possibly manage to keep a maid. But then, a maid wouldn't have to deal with Brayden's attitude. At least not directly. I can hear him throwing his toys around in his room, and I decide that ignoring him is the best thing to do for now. I'm going to be spending the day at home, finishing up what work I can while I'm here. Until I can get another nanny, or at the very least a part-time babysitter, I'm going to be the one seeing to Brayden's needs. Once I finish cleaning up the cereal, my thoughts return to the prospect of finding a date. I've spent so much time over the past few years filling the void left from losing my wife with work that I don't even know any women I could ask out. At 37, I'm not as young as I used to be, and they aren't exactly lining up at my door like they once were. Suddenly, a thought crosses my mind. I could look online. I wonder why I hadn't thought of it before, as I grab my laptop and quickly search for a site with dates for hire. This would be a fast and simple way to find someone to take to the party and get the rest of the guys off my back. While I'm at it, I browse for a local agency that could send another nanny my way. Forget about finding and hiring girls by word of mouth or based on the recommendations of friends. That clearly wasn't working. I would find a girl through an agency, one with enough experience that she wouldn't be deterred by the strong will of my son. With a newfound surge of ambition running through me, I quickly scan the profiles of countless beautiful women on my computer screen. They all list different rates for the night, but they're well within what I'm able to afford. I have the pick of the lot. But there is one girl who stands out from the rest. A beautiful brunette with bright blue eyes and a mysterious smile. She's only 22, but I can see right away that she's the one. I write her a brief message and hit send.
Chapter 4.
I just don't understand how someone hired me so quickly. Is that normal? I turn my attention from the computer screen to Jasmine, who's standing in the doorway looking very pleased with herself. It's normal for someone as attractive as you are. You should be proud. You don't even have any ratings, and less than a day after you throw up a profile you've got yourself a date. Who is he? Jasmine walks over and sits down next to me, looking over my shoulder at the man who has requested that I attend a party with him later that night. His name is Rex Jordan. He looks a little familiar, though I don't know why. Do you know him? I look at her and see her shake her head. The name's familiar, but that's all I got. The important thing is that he clearly has money, which is what you need right now. She winks at me as she stands, sipping her latte through the little straws poking out the lid. But what do I do now? Do I tell him that I don't want to sleep with him? I look nervously back at his profile. Part of me can't believe that a rich man as attractive as one in this picture would want to go out with me, and another part of me wants to call the whole thing off before we even begin. No. There's no need to get into that until you actually start talking to him. Just send him a message back and let him know that you're free tonight, and then the two of you can start working out where you're going to meet him. You don't want him to come here. Never tell anyone where you live. She's walking around the apartment as though this is the most natural thing in the world, but my heart is pounding in my chest. What do I tell him then? I ask. Find out somewhere neutral. I usually meet in the parking lot of the little grocery store on the corner. It's far enough away from here that you don't have to worry about someone following you, but at the same time, you don't have to walk for miles in your outfit. She laughs and I suddenly stand up, slightly panicked. I don't have anything to wear. I didn't think I was going to find anyone so fast. What am I going to do? My anxiety is starting to take hold, and she holds up her hands. What did I already tell you? You can use one of my dresses. I brought out that sequin one for you to try on, but you never did. She points to the dress that's draped over the back of the chair, and I sigh. It looks like something she could wear to work, not something someone would wear on a first date. I point this out to her and she laughs. This isn't a first date, love, this is an escort job. You aren't going to ever see him again if this is your only night working in the biz, and you'll walk away with a fat wad of cash in your pocket. Trust me, you want to look as hot as possible. She shakes her head at my naive attitude, and I feel like I'm going to cry. And what if he recognizes me? What if we run into each other on the street, and he knows it's me? I'm imagining an entire set of wild scenarios that could go wrong, but once again she shakes her head, as though this is the simplest thing in the world. I told you, you're going to wear a wig. She points to her display case, showing all the different wigs she wears to work. I can't imagine living the kind of life she does, but I can see now how she protects herself. I relax slightly, and Jasmine opens the glass doors to the case. When is he going to pick you up? She asks. He says the party is at 6, I reply, looking back at the computer screen in front of me. She looks over her shoulder at the clock, and then turns her attention back to the wigs. I think we should go with something simple and sophisticated. I'll help you do your makeup and get the hair on, and your job is going to be to try to remain somewhat calm tonight. Even if you do hook up with him, you don't want to get so wild that your wig falls off. She's rifling through several sets of hair and I laugh. The least likely thing that's going to happen tonight is me spending the night with him. I don't even know this person. There's no way I would ever be comfortable enough to be that close with someone I just met. I shake my head incredulously, but she laughs. I wince inside, knowing that she often brings men home without hesitation. For her, intimacy is easy, almost effortless, and I wish I had that kind of confidence. You never know what's going to happen. You might meet him and be completely swept off your feet. She doesn't seem at all fazed by my reaction, and I relax a little. Despite her optimism, I know her prediction for the night couldn't be further from reality. I've had very little experience in that department, and it's always been with people I spent a lot of time getting to know first. I've never been the kind of girl to get intimate with a man on the first date, and I can't imagine being even remotely comfortable enough in the situation I'm preparing for that I would end up going that far with him. I'm still not even entirely sure how I'm going to manage just going out with him. As attractive as he is, I know my awkwardness is going to shine through, and I'll be lucky if I even make it to the party with him. Come on. You only have a few hours before you've got to get going. I can give you a ride over to the parking lot if you want, but you're still going to need time to get your hair on and your makeup done. Jasmine brings my mind back to the present, and my heart leaps into my throat. I know she's right, but it seems almost too real for me to even move. Just tell him that you'll meet him at like 5:45. He'll be okay with that, trust me. Jasmine is running her fingers through one of the wigs, speaking to me but not looking at me. I sigh and type the message. I don't have any other choice but to listen to her. She knows better than I do, and I trust that she's going to do everything she can to get this to work out for me. After I hit send, I leave my computer open. I want to know the exact moment he responds, though Jasmine is pulling me away from the screen and toward her bedroom. The first thing you're going to do is put on the dress. Then we'll see what we need to do as far as your breasts go. She heads toward the closet. My breasts? I ask. Hopefully you won't need a bra, but your boobs are bigger than mine, and I don't want you to risk one of them falling out. She laughs as I slip into the dress. Her words don't make sense until I pull the fabric down and see how deep the plunge in the front is. I gasp when I look down. It nearly reaches my navel. Oh, I think you'll be okay, Jasmine says with relief in her voice. I don't agree, but before I have the chance to argue with her, my phone starts ringing. You didn't give him your actual number, did you? Jasmine asks, and I shake my head in response. I might be naive, but I'm not that dumb. It's the nanny agency, I say, elated. Answer it. Jasmine replies with a laugh. I would much rather be a nanny than an escort, and if there is any way I can get out of the date tonight, I'm going to take it. Hello? I answer the phone. Yes, Miss Bailey? The voice comes through the phone. Yes, this is she, I reply, excitement in my voice. I have good news. You've got someone asking for an interview with you tomorrow, the woman tells me. The relief I feel makes me so happy I could cry. Really? That's great news. What time? I ask. I don't want to sound too eager, but this is the greatest news I've heard in ages. Early. He's a single father. He wants to know if you will be able to be there around 8, she asks. Most definitely, thank you. I say, once again not bothering to hold back the excitement in my voice. Remember, this is just an interview, the woman reminds me, before wrapping up the conversation. I assure her I am aware and hang up the phone, eager to tell Jasmine I'm not going on the date. What? Oh no, you aren't, she retorts when I tell her I'm going to cancel. But I don't have to go on it anymore. I have an interview tomorrow. I argue. And what if you don't get the job? She asks simply. That stops me. I want to argue with her further, but I know she has a point. If I don't get the job, and I don't go out tonight, I'm going to be in the same boat that I'm in right now. Though I don't want to go out, at least this man will pay me in cash before the night is over. If you play your cards right, this might be the only time you have to do this. I know how stressed out you've been about money, and it's better to be safe than sorry, Jasmine reminds me. I know she's right, and I resign myself to the fact I'm going to be going out on this date. But it's just going to be this once, I inform her defiantly as she begins pinning up my hair in a net. She's chosen a pin-straight blonde wig to cover my brunette waves. I've never thought I'd look good as a blonde, but I resign myself to the fact that she's trying to conceal my identity as best she can, and that she's going to do a good job of it. I am the guinea pig, and she's the mastermind. She smiles and lets out a sardonic giggle. We'll see.
Chapter 5.
I wait impatiently in my car, glancing at my watch every few minutes. I trust she's going to be on time, but I have to admit, I'm not too keen on meeting a woman in a parking lot. Picking her up like this makes it feel too much like prostitution, and that's not what I'm looking to get out of tonight. But then I've never done this sort of thing before, and I'm not sure if this is how it's normally done. Finally, another car pulls up and a beautiful woman gets out. I do a double take, amazed at the woman walking toward my car. She's young, beautiful, curvy, and has the most gorgeous blue eyes I've ever seen. Her hair is long and blonde, and her red lipstick grabs my attention immediately and holds it. Are you Mr. Jordan? She asks when she reaches the door. I nod. Madison Goodson, she says with a smile. I notice she appears to be nervous, but there is a determination about her that I can sense right off the bat. I've always admired a determined woman. May I? She motions toward the door and I nod, opening the door for her to slip inside. It's nice to meet you, she says, and I nod once more. I hadn't intended to make too much conversation with my date tonight, but there's something about her that makes me think that that was a silly plan. It's nice to meet you too. Are you from around here? I ask. I'm not sure what to say, and while I don't want to be too nosy, I do want to put her at ease and get to know her better. No. I just moved here recently from out of state. But I like it so far. She smiles at me as she speaks, and once again I'm struck by her beauty. Where are you from originally? I ask carefully. I'm surprised that she revealed so much with that first question, and continue to be surprised as we exchange some pleasant small talk as I drive. She tells me more about her recent move and what her favorite parts of the city are, revealing her hobbies. I realize that she isn't telling me anything that she couldn't tell anyone, but I didn't expect her to be so forthcoming, considering the circumstances. Despite the mundane topics, our conversation doesn't feel at all generic. So now that I've told you my life story, are you going to tell me yours? She teases me, a little grin on her beautiful lips as she tilts her head in my direction. You'll have to buy me dinner first, I tease back, surprising myself with my playful chuckle. I wasn't expecting to enjoy this so much. I thought hiring a date online would be just another unfortunate necessity of fitting in with this crowd. But there's something about her that is so electrifying, and I feel an instant connection. All too soon we're pulling up to the hotel restaurant, and I regret that we have to mingle with my colleagues. I've never been here before, she says as we step out of the car. You're going to love it, I tell her, much more confident in that statement than I have a right to be. I don't know why, but I have the feeling she really will enjoy it. She smiles as she slips her hand over my arm, and a spark of awareness runs through me. For the first time in what feels like forever, I feel a deep, undeniable pull toward someone. I want to be close to her. I want to know what she looks like when she lets go, lost in the moment, and I wonder what it would feel like to have that kind of connection with her. I shake off the thought as Brody walks over with a drink in his hand, forcing my attention elsewhere. Hey. You made it, and good God, he looks at Madison and she smiles. Hello, she says. What are you doing with the likes of him? Brody asks, not bothering to return her greeting. All right. You said you wanted me to bring a date, and I did, I interrupt. We push past him and she laughs, looking over her shoulder. I can sense she's nervous, but she's also somehow giving off this easygoing vibe that makes it seem like she never wastes her time on something as silly as nerves. Look at that, she says suddenly, and I look around in surprise. What? The artwork. There are dozens of black and white photographs on the wall, and I'm surprised she cares to look at them. Yeah? You like those? I ask. She nods, and I can see that she's genuinely interested in them. She's becoming more interesting by the second, and I'm becoming more enthralled with her by the minute. The waiter interrupts us by taking us to the table, but she's clearly still very interested in the artwork on the walls. As we move closer to the table and further away from the art that had caught her attention, she turns her head back to me once more. So, should I expect more of the same reaction from the rest of your friends? She tilts her head back to the front of the restaurant, making it clear she's referring to Brady and our earlier interaction. I let out an embarrassed laugh. I wish I could say no, but it's more than likely with this crowd, I smile sheepishly, almost apologetic. That's another thing, I'm not used to feeling around anyone else. I take it you're not one of those rich playboys who have a new woman on his arm every night? She asks as we approach the room full of my colleagues. I have to admit that's a relief, I can't stand those kinds of men. Before I can say anything, she gets her first glimpse at the lot of them. She winces and sucks in a breath, clearly realizing that her teasing must have been a little too on the nose in describing many of the men she's about to meet. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to insult, she cuts herself off, closing her eyes and taking a deep breath before continuing. I'm new at this, and I'm a little nervous. But I imagine it's never good etiquette to insult someone's friends on a first date, or whatever this is. She looks at me uncertainly, biting her lip. She looks so damn cute. I reach out and put my hand on her arm, stopping us in the middle of the room. I feel that zing of awareness run through me again when I touch her, and I stare at her for several seconds. I take in the sight of her looking vulnerable for the first time tonight, and some long-forgotten protective instinct kicks in. I lean down close to her ear, taking a deep breath of her tantalizing scent. "You're doing great," I whisper for her ears only. I lean back out to look deeply into her eyes again. We're in a room full of people, but it feels like it's just the two of us. I can feel a sudden shift between us. We're no longer two strangers who feel the need to impress each other. We're a team now. It's the two of us against the rest of these vultures, who she was right to disdain just moments ago. She continues looking at me a few seconds longer, and then nods her head. She steels herself, taking another deep breath, and then breaks eye contact to look back at the room full of my investors we're about to walk into the middle of. Each time she looks at me, I feel a thrill rush through me, and I can't help but want to know this woman better. We are connecting on a level that I hadn't expected to feel with anyone ever again, let alone a woman I just met. I can see she's not unaffected by me either, and I want to make sure she has the time of her life tonight. And the more time we spend together, the more I feel the need to be inside her. I can see my colleagues and the other investors looking over at us from time to time, and I figure it's now or never. I slide my arm to rest on her lower back, and we head into the room. I make a point of introducing her to everyone, but their curious stares continue to linger on us throughout the night. I find that I really don't care that they're staring or what they're thinking. I feel almost as though I'm on a real date with this woman, and it's the best date I've had in a very long time, maybe ever. Our connection is electric, and I know I'm going to have to show her the full extent of what I'm capable of before the night is out. After dinner, we share a bottle of champagne with the table next to ours, but our conversation is still focused exclusively on ourselves. Madison looks around the room, her eyes sparkling with delight at all the different sights. I wonder if she's ever been to any place even remotely as nice as this, and on a whim, I suddenly reach into my pocket and pull out my wallet. I am so taken with her beauty and charm, that I feel the need to give her something. I don't care that I will likely never see her again. I want to give her something to remember me by, because I know I won't be forgetting her anytime soon. "What's this?" she asks as I pull out a bracelet. It's something that I'd purchased for my wife years before. A bracelet that she'd never cared too much for, though I'd always loved it. I'd placed it in my wallet shortly after she passed, and I always carried it around with me. Over the years, it's just become another object that I carry around, not taking up as much sentimental value as other reminders of my life with her. But there's something about Madison that's so warm and infectious. I feel my wife would have approved of my giving her something to show how much I appreciated her and our night together. Think of it as a tip, I wince inwardly. That definitely wasn't the smoothest thing to say, but I forge ahead. I'm really glad you came here with me tonight. I thought the evening would be unbearable. I hate these functions, but you've turned it into a wonderful time, I say. She holds out her arm and I secure the bracelet in place, briefly thinking how it looks much more at home on her than it ever did on my wife. Madison looks at it a little dazedly, with wonder in her eyes, and I can't contain myself any longer. "Come with me." I place my hand gently over her fingers and feel that jolt once more. "Let's sneak into the back for a few minutes," I say with a wink. She looks at me for a moment, and I can see the understanding come into her eyes. She flushes a bright red, but she rises from her seat with a mischievous smile on her face. I can see she wants me as badly as I want her. My heart is thudding in my chest as I follow Rex toward the bathroom. I have to admit, he's even better looking in person than he was online. He's tall, dark, handsome, and muscular. He's got brilliant green eyes and a strong jawline, and I can see by the frame under his tight shirt that he takes care of himself. He's been so kind all evening, and he genuinely took my breath away when he put this bracelet around my wrist. I take deep breaths now as I follow him, trying to calm the flush I can still feel in my cheeks. I know that the connection between us this evening has been undeniable, and I'm not afraid to admit there have been sparks flying. Never have I connected with anyone so quickly, and had our meeting been under different circumstances, I would almost think that we were meant to be with each other. I can't help but wonder what Rex is thinking about the night so far, and I wish I had the ability to read his mind. He's walking with a confident, steady stride, and I have to pick up my pace to keep up with him. I'm doing my best to concentrate on the floor in front of me, walking as Jasmine had instructed me to make sure I'm showing off my body to full advantage in these heels. The last thing I want to do is fall down, especially in front of everyone. I keep my eyes on his back as we walk, not wanting to know if anyone else is watching. I don't know if this is the way of things, or if anyone else in the room is even noticing us. I don't want to see the gleam in these jerks' eyes if they know what we are about to do. I've had enough of their leering for one night. If I'm being honest, I don't even know if I know for sure what we are about to do. Since meeting Rex, he's been the one in control, and it's clear he knows it. What I don't understand is why I trust him so completely, and why I felt so safe with him. I haven't questioned anything he's done all night, and I've never been one to blindly follow wherever a man decides to lead me. But for some reason, he's different. As soon as the door closes behind us, he's on top of me, the front of his body pressed invitingly against the back of mine. I can feel the undeniable intensity of his presence, and his hands are immediately at my waist. He's gliding his hands slowly up from my waist, letting them linger for a moment before tracing them slowly back down again. I bring my hands up and wrap my arms around the back of his neck, looking over my shoulder and pressing my lips against his. I'm not very experienced in these situations, but I know what I'm doing when it comes to kissing. He's holding me firmly against his body, kissing me back with a growing passion. I can feel a deep need awakening inside me, and a profound shift within. There's a yearning inside me unlike any I have ever felt before in my life. I've been intimate before, but I've never felt so profoundly drawn to anyone. For the first time that night, I'm happy with the way Jasmine dressed me. I wonder if he can feel how strongly I'm reacting already, and what he thinks about it. Worries begin to swirl through my brain, but I don't have the time to take a step back or breathe as I normally do when I feel anxious. We are doing this now, and I know there's no turning back. My brain isn't in control right now, my body is, and my body wants this very badly. I hear the sound of someone trying to open the door and immediately stiffen, but it doesn't take long for them to give up and leave. "Don't worry, I've locked it," he whispers in my ear. I relax slightly and then gasp as he suddenly pulls me close. It's been years since anyone has evoked such a strong feeling of anticipation, and I feel a thrill run through me. "Oh damn, you are so eager," he breathes. I react with a rush of emotion as he holds me firmly, and I feel a wave of tension spread through my body. He pulls back slightly and I turn, my movements quick. I can see he's already prepared. I lean in close, letting my lips brush his skin. I'm determined to give him an unforgettable welcome. He shudders with a sense of profound feeling. I stay focused on him as he leans in closer. I cry out in surprise and a little pain as he exerts pressure on my head. In a flash, he's pulled me to my feet and pressed me up against the wall, his face close to mine and holding me close. I brace myself against him. He presses his frame against mine before leaning forward, holding me against the wall. I feel my legs adjust as he holds me fast, and I rest my head back against the wall. He's holding me firmly with his arms, shifting his stance before slowly pulling back. With each shift, it feels like he's consuming me a little further, drawing me into a dynamic no one has ever established before. I feel elevated, almost high with every move he makes. Our breathing deepens, and I feel drawn to him more than ever. I don't know what is happening, but there is an ever-growing intensity building through my body. I feel like I'm on the verge of something incredible, and each second I'm pushed closer and closer to the edge. I can hardly breathe, my body reacting to this moment so strongly. I hold on to him, pressing my hips against him as hard as I can, using the wall as leverage. I feel myself growing more tense as his actions continue, and my breathing quickens. Rex holds me against the wall with one arm, and then with the other he applies pressure to my head once more. I'm amazed that the wig doesn't come off or slip. I silently thank Jasmine for anticipating this and securing it as tightly as she did. The pain that rushes through my head only heightens the intensity of the feeling, and I cry out once more. He moves his hand from my head to my mouth, silencing the sounds of my effort that I can't stop from coming out. Part of me is embarrassed that I'm being so loud, but there's another part of me that wants to cut loose. The way he moves with me, the way he moves in harmony with me, is more intense than anything I have ever felt in my entire life. I like the way he's directing the situation, and there's something in me that wants to engage with him more than anything. But I don't know how to do that. I don't know what to do or how to connect with him more deeply than I already am. At the same time, I feel that he's enjoying his moment of power. It's clear that he likes to be in control, and he's in complete control of my responses, and he's going to do anything he wants with that control. Suddenly, I feel a rush of overwhelming sensation deep inside me, and wave after wave of intensity washes through my body. It's happening so quickly that I feel like I'm falling, but at the same time, each wave of sensation feels as though it will last an eternity. My breathing heightens for a moment and I can feel myself panting, and then I slowly regain control of myself. I suddenly realize that I've just had my first profound experience of heightened feeling. Dimly, I could hear Rex exerting himself as I reacted strongly to his presence, and now that I've come back to earth, I feel him pressing closer and with more intent than before. Though I've already experienced my own intense moment, he still feels like a compelling force against me. I want nothing more than to have him there for as long as I can, and I silently wish this moment would never end. Suddenly, he pushes his frame against me, pressing me against the wall with a groan. I can feel his presence encompassing me, a throbbing intensity building. We are both breathing heavily, but now he stands against me, still holding me against the wall. We remain this way for only a few seconds before he pulls himself back and sets me down. I try to ignore the empty feeling that comes over me now that he's no longer so near, but I smile. "That was incredible," I say, trying to play it off as cool as possible. I know he must be thinking that I do this sort of thing all the time, but that couldn't be farther from the truth. I wouldn't have engaged like this with just anyone, and I would love to have him close to me again, guiding me, influencing me in any way that he sees fit. But it doesn't feel right to say any of that out loud. To my surprise, he merely nods as he fixes his outfit. "Shall we?" he asks as we head for the door. I suddenly realize that we're the only two people in the bathroom, and as soon as we walk out, people are going to realize that we were in here together. "Should I wait?" I ask nervously. "For what?" he replies, looking at me with raised eyebrows. "I mean, won't they wonder what we were doing in here together?" I ask. I don't want to make anything awkward for him, especially not in front of the people he's trying to impress. He looks at me as though I've just said the silliest thing he's ever heard, and then he shakes his head. "I don't care what they assume. If I want to be intimate with you, then that's what I'm going to do. They can mind their own business and get over it." He opens the door, and though I admire his attitude, I have to admit that I'm incredibly relieved when I see that no one is waiting outside. Together, we return to the dining room where people are mingling about. I'm surprised no one seems to have noticed that we were even gone in the first place. Rex immediately goes back to socializing, and I put my hand on his arm, taking my place at his side once more. I remind myself that I'm his date for the night, and nothing more. I am getting paid to be his arm candy. What happened in the bathroom was just for the hell of it. It was fun, but it wasn't going to lead to anything more, and it certainly didn't mean anything. I glance up at the clock, suddenly wondering how much longer we're going to be at this party. For a brief moment, I feel like a schoolgirl once more, not wanting to go home at the end of the night. I feel like a princess, and I want this night to last as long as it possibly can. For the first time in my life, I wonder if this is why Jasmine does what she does. If this is what all of her night are like, then I can't blame her for it. I feel on top of the world.
Chapter 6.
I open the door as quietly as I can, hoping Jasmine's already in bed. I know she didn't have to work, but that doesn't mean she'd be sensible and get to bed at a decent hour. For all I know, she might have gone out and found someone to share her bed with outside of work. A feeling of relief washes over me, as nothing but silence and darkness greets me inside. If she does have someone in her room, they're both asleep. I use the light from my phone to illumine the small space in front of me as I walk inside the living room and make my way over to the couch. I took off my heels on my way up the stairs, eager to get out of them as soon as possible. Now, as I struggle to get the back of my dress unzipped, I briefly wish Jasmine was still awake and out in the living room to help me. It's been so long since I've worn a dress, let alone one I need help to get in and out of, that I feel silly as I hop around struggling as quietly as I can. I bump into one of the tables and it scrapes against the floor, making me cringe. I freeze in place, holding my breath and listening, but once again silence is the only thing that greets me, and I breathe a sigh of relief. It's been difficult enough for me, living with Jasmine as long as I have been, and I don't want to wake her up by being noisy coming home from a date. Finally, I manage to pull the dress over my head and let it fall to the floor. I'm still a little sore from my romp in the sheets, or against the wall more accurately, with Rex, and I smile as I think about it once more. I slip into one of my t-shirts, falling on the couch with a contented sigh. I replay every second of the evening, from the moment I first laid my eyes on him to when he dropped me off outside. Of course, there was a part of me that wondered if I'd made a mistake in allowing him to bring me all the way to the apartment, but then again, I'd probably made worse mistakes that night. I'd been intimate with the man. He already knew more about me than most. Of course, I was smart about it, getting him to drop me off. There were several apartment buildings in this complex, and I didn't tell him which building was mine, or even what number. With all the people who came and went through these doors, there would be little to no chance of him being able to determine which one I was living in, unless he were to truly stalk me. And Rex Jordan didn't strike me as the kind of man who would bother with that kind of behavior. There's a part of me that's shocked by my behavior with him. Sure, there was a level of safety, knowing that I wasn't ever going to see him again, but at the same time, it is so unlike me to do anything so bold. I never sleep with a guy on the first date, but here I am, fantasizing about this man as though we're going steady. For a brief moment, I feel sorrow and regret at the thought of never seeing him again. It's a mixed emotion. I know seeing him again, even if I had a way to do so, probably wouldn't be a good idea, but there's another part of me that's devastated by that. How can I just forget about a man who is so wonderful? So perfect. He was everything I've ever wanted in a man tonight. Not only is he gorgeous, but he was funny, charming, and he has that self-assuredness about him that made me feel safe and secure. And I would have let him do anything to me. I got the impression that he knew it, and he wasn't afraid to do whatever he wanted. The more I reflect on the night, the more I wonder what would happen if we were to go on another date, a real one this time. How would he use me then? Would he take me to new levels I'd never before been to before? How would he show me what it really means to be intimate with somebody? These thoughts continue to swirl through my mind, so out of character for me, but so exhilarating. I know there is a part of me that wants him inside me again, more than ever, and I don't know what to do about the feeling. As I roll over on the couch to face the cushions, I make up my mind to ask Jasmine about it the next day. If anyone is able to give me an answer, it will be her. She knows what it's like to have a man for only one night and then move on, and I consider her to be one of the happiest people I know. Maybe there's a trick to this whole thing, to forgetting a man who just showed you the best time of your life. Or better yet, maybe she'd know a way for me to get in touch with Rex Jordan again. Perhaps there's a way I could continue to live out this fantasy with him, without ever having to go back on that site. I don't want to think about the fact that the only way he and I communicated was through the website, or to consider that the only way I could hope to see him again would be through that site. I also don't want to face the fact that I don't know how Rex feels about the night. He was kind. He paid me what we had agreed plus a large tip, and he dropped me off practically on my doorstep. No matter how amazing I felt about the night, to him it could have been just another business transaction. I don't know if he was relieved that the night was over when he dropped me off, or if he too was hoping for some way to get a hold of me. I shake my head. I didn't give him my real name. I didn't give him any of my actual contact information, and I didn't get any of his. I can't shake the feeling that I've made a huge mistake by not at least asking. I toss and turn, finally convincing myself that I have to stop thinking these thoughts. This night was a one-time thing, a fairy tale that I got to be part of, but that always had an expiration date. I might never meet another man who would be able to take me to the places Rex Jordan had, so I'll have to settle for treasuring the evening forever in my heart. I don't want to admit it, but I am glad Jasmine insisted that I go through with the night, even though I was scared to do so. Now I have the money in pocket, and the memory of an incredible experience I never imagined I'd have. I know what it's like to be completely swept away in a moment of deep connection, and I trust that one day I'll find someone who can make me feel that way again. But for now, that's all going to have to wait. Right now, I have to focus on continuing my education and hopefully launching my nursing career. I know it's what I want to do with my life, and though I would rather fantasize about what it would be like to be dating a man like Rex, I know that tonight might have been my only chance with a guy like him. I'm thankful that I even got the one night. I can feel myself drifting off to sleep, the final happy thoughts of the evening running through my brain. If I'm lucky, I'll get to dream about the night all over again, almost like living it twice. As blackness claims me, I hope that at the very least I'll dream about being intimate with him again. Even if it's just tonight. The next morning, I wake to the sound of the door closing and Jasmine leaving for work. It takes me a moment to open my eyes, the events of the night before rushing through my mind. As I finally settle into the here and now, I sit straight up on the couch and snatch my phone off the floor beside. Damn. I fairly shout as I leap off the couch and grab my jeans, hopping around the room and trying to pull them up as quickly as possible. I have to be at the interview in less than half an hour. And I just got up. I can't be late. I mutter as I snatch my shoes off the floor and quickly slip them on. This is my ticket to getting my life back. I can't mess it up. I run out the door as I dial the number for a taxi. I've got to get to the interview as soon as possible.
Chapter 7.
I don't want a new nanny. I want you to stay home with me. Why can't you stay home? Brayden is slamming his spoon down on the table for emphasis as he speaks, and I give him the most compassionate look I can. I know you do, bud, and I would stay home with you if I could. But you know Daddy has to go to work. That's how we get our money. I know he understands that I have a job, but that doesn't make this any easier on him. Or me, for that matter. But I don't want you to go to work. He sits down hard on his chair, crossing his arms and sticking out his lower lip in a pout. I feel bad about having to do this to him, and I hope that one day I'll be able to get rid of the nannies once and for all and just work from home. I'll tell you what, bud, you be good for the nanny today, and this weekend you and I can do whatever you choose, okay? But you have to be good. I know there's little hope of him actually being good for me or the nanny, but it's worth a shot, especially since I would love to see it work out with this one. I don't know how long it's going to be before I'm able to get everything set up at my company so that I'll be able to work from home, and I can't risk losing what I've got going down at the office. As difficult as it is for both of us, He's just going to have to deal with the situation for now. I glanced down at my watch. I'm hoping that the nanny is able to start either today or tomorrow, but I don't know if she's got other obligations she's going to have to tend to first. From the looks of things on the site, she didn't seem to be caught up with other clients, and I hope that's a good sign. Sure, I know that it might mean she's not very good, but there was something about her smile that caught my eye. She looked innocent. Pure in a way. The kind of woman I would feel comfortable leaving Brayden with. The kind of woman I hoped Brayden would be nice to. Eat your breakfast. She's going to get here soon, and I want you to be done before she does. I smile warmly at him, and feel relief when he resigns himself to eating his breakfast. As we sit at the table together, my mind drifts back to the night before. Ever since I dropped Madison off, the woman has consumed my thoughts. I drove home last night and found the babysitter reading in the living room while Brayden was asleep upstairs, but I could hardly concentrate as I paid her and wandered to my bedroom myself. The logical part of me knew she was an escort, and that it was part of her job to make each of her clients feel like they were the only man in her life, but there was something about the way she treated me that left me genuinely believing that I was. I don't have any previous experience with escorts, so I'm not certain how to interpret the enjoyable evening she and I shared, but I swear she was unlike any other woman I've met since my wife passed. I felt a stronger connection to her than I have with any other woman I've gone out with over the past few years, and there were things about her that reminded me quite strongly of my wife. I argue with myself that even if she was just doing her job, there was no way she could fake having that kind of connection with me. There had to be something there. There simply had to be. The part of me that loves to take action reasons that the only way I would know for sure would be if I were to get to see her again. But the fact of the matter is that I have no reason to contact her again. Sure, I could hire her and take her out for dinner or something else of the sort, but I didn't know if she would agree to something like that. My lack of experience with escorts certainly wasn't making this very easy. I'm tempted to get my computer and find her profile once more. Perhaps I could send her a message and let her know I was very happy with how things had gone the night before. Was that the sort of thing one did with girls like that? I don't know, and I certainly don't have anyone to ask. As far as my investors, even the ones I might consider to be my friends, were concerned, she'd been my actual date. If they knew the truth, I'd be under even more scrutiny than I am right now. I've already been preparing for the barrage of questions I'm sure I'll be asked about her when I do get back to work, and I don't know how I'll explain why things didn't work out between us. As far as I know, none of the others would go on such a site, so there would be no way for any of them to figure out that I had actually hired a date to attend the party with me. Of course, I argue with myself, if it were to come to light that she was an escort and they were to question me about it, I wouldn't have to lie about why she and I didn't stay together. There were ways to keep them out of my private life, but no way for me to know how to include her in it without contacting her through the site once more. I know I will have to make a decision about it, one way or another. I can't relax enough to focus on anything with the turmoil inside my head. If I am going to try to get a hold of her again, I better do it and be done with it. If I'm not, then it isn't something I will allow myself to think about any longer. There are far more important things that I should be focusing my energy on, rather than whether a woman I paid to spend time with me actually enjoyed her night. And I know it. The doorbell chimes, startling both me and Brayden. He looks at me, then down at his cereal, and I can see that he only has a single spoonful left. Good job. Finish that and put your dishes in the sink. I'm going to let the lady in, I say as I rise from the chair and head for the door. He moves quickly, and I know it's because he's feeling shy. He doesn't want to be caught at the table when the woman walks into the house, and I suspect he's going to hide in his room until I force him to come out and meet her. I open the door with as much of a smile as I can manage, and I see that the girl looks first surprised and then somewhat worried. Hello? Are you from the nanny service? I ask. She seems to recover from whatever it was that surprised her and nods, but there's still something in her smile that's a little off. There's also something very familiar about her, though I can't put my finger on what it is. Yes, I am. Mr. Jordan, she asks as she holds out her hand. I give it a single shake, before releasing it with a nod. And you are? I ask. Once again she hesitates, and I can see that she seems uncomfortable. I brush it off as being nervous about the interview. My name is Shoshana Bailey. Her voice is tight and almost shrill, and I raise my eyebrows. Are you new to the service? I ask, and she quickly nods. I signed up just a few days ago, she says quickly. I'm trying to get enough money to live off of and pay for school. I see. Tell me about yourself, I prompt. She hesitates once more, and then she speaks quickly. I've just recently moved here from out of state. I want to be a nurse, and I'm working on getting my credits transferred from my previous school. I'm great with kids, and I'm really looking forward to meeting your son. Hopefully we'll find that we are a perfect fit. She smiles once more, but there is something forced about it, making it look less than genuine. She also doesn't ask me anything about myself, which I find odd as I call for Brayden. Did the agency tell you anything? I ask with raised eyebrows. Only what you told them, but there is still a lot more I'd like to learn, she replies with another smile. I know that I didn't tell the agency much more than the basics, and I smirk to myself as I once again call for Brayden. I hope this girl can handle him. He's a bit of a handful, I say as Brayden comes into the room. She puts her hands on her knees and bends forward, giving him a warm smile. It's nice to meet you, she says, holding out her hand for Brayden to shake. Once again, it flashes through my mind that there is something very familiar about her. I shake off the feeling. If she just moved here, I know I must be getting her crossed with someone else. Nice to meet you too, Brayden mumbles. He has his hands in his pockets, and I can see he is fighting a shy smile. Even if there is something a little off about this girl, I still like her. She isn't acting odd in any way that seems threatening or untrustworthy. I can see that my son likes her too, and I suspect the smile she is giving him is far more genuine than the one she gave me. I blame her awkward behavior on nerves, and head for the papers that I printed off and left in the kitchen. I can already sense she is going to be a great fit.
Chapter 8.
And I believe that's all you really need to know to get started. If there is anything else that comes up, you can just ask as we go along. I think Brayden likes you well enough. If you want the position, it's yours. Rex sets the paperwork on the table along with a pen, and looks at me with expectation in his eyes. I am fighting so hard to be as natural as possible, though seeing him again has caught completely off guard. I can't believe that this is the man I went out with the night before, and I'm finding it incredibly difficult to determine if he recognizes me. I'm assuming he doesn't, since he asked me for my name when I first got here. I don't know how to feel about that. A part of me is a little hurt that he wouldn't recognize me after everything I thought we'd shared. Maybe the attraction was more one-sided than I was imagining. And another part of me is praying that he truly doesn't connect me to the woman from last night, now that I've given him my real name. I'm sure he already knew it since it was on the Nanny website, though I am a little irritated that the agency didn't give me his full name when they gave me his address. Sure, I did find it to be a bit of a coincidence that I went out with a man with the last name Jordan, the very night before my interview with a man also named Jordan. But then I had reasoned with myself that Rex hadn't mentioned the fact that he had a son the night before, nor did he mention that he was ever married. The thought briefly flashes through my mind that he might still be married, and I worry that a wife is about to come around the corner to greet me at any second. I wouldn't have put it past a rich man to hire an escort for a party he didn't wish to take his wife to, and I can't even use the fact that we were intimate to assure me that he was single. But the thought also runs through my mind that the agency told me that he's a single father, and that's part of the reason why he's looking for someone to watch his son in the first place. I walk over and skim through the paperwork. It's nothing more than an acknowledgement on both sides that I'm going to be taking care of his son and the house during the agreed times, and as such, I am going to be given a key to the house. I quickly sign where indicated, and my heart leaps into my throat when he hands me an extra key to the house. As I reach out to take it from him, I feel the bracelet he gave me the night before sliding up my arm inside my jacket. I feel my heart pounding, and I silently thank God that it didn't manage to slide down when I was signing the papers. I didn't take it off when I got home last night, and it's still on my left arm where Rex put it on me the night before. It would have been a disaster if I had slid my jacket sleeves up my arm, as I so often do when I was signing paperwork, the bracelet in plain sight for him to see. Not only am I certain that he would fire me as soon as the ink was dry, who wants an escort to take of their kid, but it would be so awkward for him to just now realize who I am, after sitting through a 20-minute interview without noticing. I tried my hardest throughout the interview to subtly change the sound of my voice, praying that that wouldn't be the thing to give me away either. I quickly promised myself that I'm going to put the bracelet in my purse as soon as I get out of there. I don't have anywhere else to put it while at Jasmine's place, but I really don't want to lose it either. And I really can't risk him seeing it. Trying not to think too much about the bracelet, I hand him the pen with a smile. I'll take this paperwork with me and turn it into the agency, and I'll be ready to start bright and early in the morning. He nods. Are you able to be here by 6? That'll be before Brayden is up, but the sooner I can get down to the office the better. 6 is perfect for me. How late do you usually stay at the office? I ask with a smile. I'm getting paid by the hour. The later he's there, the better in my mind. He shrugs. It really depends on the day, but I should be home no later than 4 or 5 in the afternoon. I nod with another smile, and I try to be as discreet as possible as I hold my sleeve in place, tucking the papers under my arm as I hold out my hand once more. It's going to be a real pleasure working together, I'm sure, I say, trying to sound as professional as possible. He gives my hand another single shake and releases it quickly, giving me another nod. I hope you're going to stick around longer than the others. I don't think Brayden is really that difficult. He's just looking for someone who will understand him, you know? Rex looks across the room at his son, playing on a handheld gaming device. I can't help but feel compassion for the boy, thinking about myself as a child and how much I went through. I turn my attention back to Rex with an understanding smile. I know what you mean, and I can assure you I'll do everything I can to make sure he feels safe and secure while you're out. By now, I have fully decided that he doesn't have any idea who I am. Eventually, I'll be able to be myself around him without worry, once a bit more time has passed since our date. At least, that's the optimistic attitude that I'm going to embrace. We say a short goodbye, and I hurry outside. I walk up the street, holding the papers against my chest with both my arms crossed in front of me. I didn't know how long the interview would take, so I told the taxi not to bother waiting for me. It's not far to the agency, so I decide to drop off the papers, then take my time walking back to Jasmine's place. There are so many thoughts running through my mind that I don't even know where to begin. I can't believe that I'm going to be working for the same man I spent all of last night fantasizing about. And I desperately want to ignore how awkward it was to meet the son that I didn't know he had when I slept with him mere hours ago. I want to completely forget that I ever had intimacy with Rex. It would be too strange taking care of his child every day, knowing that he and I had been together. Knowing that he was the best man I had ever had. In a way, it would almost be too much like he and I were a couple. As though I were his girlfriend, or even his wife, while he was working and I was watching his child. Our child. I shake my head. How clingy does that sound? And that's not even close to the reality of the situation. The reality is that he didn't even recognize me, despite the fact that he had been inside of me less than 24 hours ago. I know that I'd been wearing a disguise, but a part of me felt like we'd shared the type of connection that would see right through something like that. But the bottom line, I remind myself, is that I don't want him to recognize me anyway. I don't want anyone to connect me with Madison Goodson, especially not a potential employer. Still, I can't deny that my ego, and maybe even my heart, is feeling a little bruised. I turn in the paperwork, and the woman at the agency smiles as she thanks me. You know, we don't really see someone get hired so quickly. I've been working here a very long time, and you are the first person I have seen get hired in the first week. Mr. Jordan must have seen something special in you, for that to work out so well. Though I know she's just being polite, I feel my heart leap to my throat once more, and in a way I feel almost defensive. I don't know about special. I mean, I got along with his kid, and I'm sure that's really all he cares about. I speak quickly, and I can see by the look on her face that she's not sure how to respond. I smile and head for the door. Anyway, I've really got to get going. I start in the morning. She calls after me, and I assume she's wishing me good luck. I don't know for sure, and I'm not going to go back to find out what she wants. I don't want to discuss this any further, and I'm not even sure I'm going to tell Jasmine about this crazy coincidence. This entire situation leaves me feeling both uncomfortable and excited, in a way, and I don't want to examine that any more than I have to. I have a job, and I should be grateful that I'm going to be working for someone so wealthy. So what if I happened to go out with him the night before? So what if the two of us were intimate? It's not the same thing as sleeping with my employer, which is huge no-no, both by agency standards and my WAN. And as far as I'm concerned, there is no need for him or anyone else to ever learn the truth. Jasmine was right. It was a one-time thing. The girl I was last night will never see the light of day again. And that means that any physical or romantic feelings I may have had about that man won't see the light of day again either. I reason with myself that if Jasmine can do it, so can I. She may as well be two entirely different people, with the way she switches between her home life and her job. There is no reason I can't do the same thing, and I fully intend to. It might not be easy, but I don't see that I have another choice. I am back to the real me now, and the real me had never met Rex Jordan or his son before knocking on that door. I am a new nanny, and I am going to focus on being the best nanny for that little boy that I can possibly be. I don't have to wear my bracelet to work. In fact, it would probably be best if I don't wear it ever again. I'll take it off as soon as I get back to Jasmine's place, and forget about it. I remind myself that it was a fairy tale. A one-night stand that I should just forget about now. No matter how hard that might be.
Chapter 9.
Glad things are working out for you finally. Brody slaps me on the back as the two of us wrap up our morning meeting and prepare for lunch. Me too, is my simple reply. The words might be simple, but they're genuine. It's been over a week, and that marks the longest time we've managed to keep a single nanny without any problems coming up. He seems to like Shoshana, and from what I can tell, Shoshana certainly seems to like him. I still don't know her well myself, but as long as she and my son are getting along, I'm happy. How are things going with that hottie you brought to the party? Brody asks suddenly. I cringe. It's the first time he and I have really had a chance to talk since the party, and I'd been hoping he'd forget about my date. A large part of me knew that it was just a matter of time until he brought her up, but I had been planning on giving some thought to what I'd say before that happened. She's fine, I say simply. Fine? Fine as in things are going well? Fine as in you see yourself with her long term? There are so many ways fine can be taken. Brody laughs, though he raises his eyebrows as he looks at me, watching to see how I would get out of this one. Fine as in she's happy. I give him an impatient look as I speak, and he gets the hint. Well, I'll see you after lunch, buddy. I'd love to hear how you're going to fix the latest glitch in your software. And so would all the customers. He laughs again as he walks down the hall toward the door, and I grimace. He makes it sound worse than it is, but dealing with updates has always been a pain, especially when they do something weird to the software and mess things up. It's been my main focus for the past few days, and I'm not looking forward to getting back into it after lunch, though I'm optimistic that I'll be able to figure something out that will fix it. As long as I can get it done before the other investors get wind that there's a problem, then I'll be happy. I hear the door open and close and I sigh, rubbing my hands over my eyes. I'd been doing a fine job of not thinking about Madison. But since Brody brought her up, I know she's going to be on my mind for the rest of the afternoon. Over the course of the past week, I'd resigned myself to the fact that I wasn't going to reach out to her, nor would I ever see her again. I know I want more from her than just another night with her as an escort, but hiring her again is the only way I'd be able to see her. And there's no chance in hell I could hire her and not think about the potential of a relationship between us. And what if she was only doing her job that night? What if she has no interest in me on a real level? Then I'm just a creepy guy who won't leave her alone and hires her just to ask her out. I'm sure there must be some kind of rules against that, to keep the girls safe. But what other choice do I have? I know I want to see her again. And it certainly hasn't helped that I finally realized who Shoshana reminds me of. I can't be around the nanny without the memory of Madison and our night together coming back to haunt me. And the kinds of thoughts those memories lead to are entirely inappropriate to be having around my son's caretaker. If Shoshana ever notices the tent that pops up in my pants every time the two women meld together in my head, then I'm sure I'll have a lawsuit on my hands. Better not to think about that though. Better not to think about the nanny at all. I look up at my computer screen. It's filled with sequences and codes, and my mind buzzes. I'm going to have to find and correct the right code in the sea of numbers and letters, and then just hope for the best at this point. But right now all my mind can focus on is Madison. I wonder what she's doing. I don't allow myself to think about the other clients she must have had since the night she and I went out, but I do allow my fingers to hover over the keyboard as I briefly consider going to the site and seeing how she's doing. I tell myself it would be enough for me to just see her photo. But deep down inside, I know if I go to the site, I'm going to send her a message. Right now, I don't know what I'm going to say, but I know I'm going to contact her in some way. A sudden impulse sweeps over me, and I pull up the site from my browser history. I feel funny going to such a site while I'm at the office, but I brush it off as a knot begins to form in my stomach and my heart begins to pound. I type in her name and hit enter, waiting for her profile to come up. Nothing happens. I try again, but once again I'm met with 0 results. Feeling my heart sink in my chest, I go back through my browser history to go directly to the landing page with her profile. I don't know if I feel satisfied or scared, but I select the page and watch as my computer attempts to load. I'm met with nothing but an error message. No matter how I go about it, it seems that she is no longer on the site. Thinking that she might rotate for privacy reasons, I try a few of the other escort sites I know of, even reading through client reviews for any mention of her, but each gives me the same answer. Madison Goodson has vanished. Her profile is gone, and so is my chance to find her again. I type her name in the search bar of a number of social media sites, and watch as profiles load. There are tons of women by the name of Madison Goodson, but none of them have the gorgeous smile or brilliant blue eyes that I fell for almost instantly. How could she delete her profile like that and vanish? Where did she go? What are the chances that the one girl I'm trying to find is probably the only person in the world who has no social media presence whatsoever? With a dejected smile and a shake of my head, I intertwine my fingers and lay my elbows on the table. I can't believe she's vanished like this. If she wanted me to reach out to her, she'd know that this would be the only way. I can't believe that I didn't reach out to her sooner. There's a hurt, resentful part of me that feels pissed off that I gave her that bracelet. At the time, I'd wanted her to experience what it felt like to be given something so valuable. Despite her professional, she had this air of innocence about her, and there was something about her that told me that she didn't get such things often in her life. I couldn't help but imagine that while she might be paid well for her services, she probably didn't often get beautiful things just for the sake of it. That bracelet had meant something to me, and I had given it to her with the hope that it would also mean something to her. Now that she's gone and I have no way to reach her, I wish I'd kept the bracelet for myself. Sure, I have the money to go out and get another one, but that's not the point. Seeing that she's nowhere to be found, there's an irrational part of me that feels like the whole night has been tarnished, like she conned me somehow. Surely a woman that beautiful would make a killing in that line of work. It makes no sense that there's not a single mention of her anywhere online. Not only now that her profile's gone, but there's also no mention of her in any of the forums where the elite clientele of these businesses discuss their favorite girls. I shake my head, closing the tab in my computer and turning my attention back to the codes in front of me. I've lost my appetite for lunch, and I force myself to think only of the code that is on the screen in front of me. It is time to forget Madison Goodson and focus on my job and my son. I wish her nothing but the best, wherever she might be. But it's time that I forget about her and move on.
Chapter 10.
I don't want you to spoil your dinner, that's why, I explain for the 100th time. Brayden crosses his arms and gives me a look, and I smile, hoping to calm him. He's asked me for another cookie more times than I can count, and I know if I were to allow him to have more, then he won't eat his dinner. Rex had already asked me not to let him snack late in the afternoon, and it was a hard rule for me to follow. I wanted to look after his child the same way he would, but I quickly learned that if Brayden has a small snack in the middle of the afternoon, then he's much easier to get along with. Otherwise, he gets a textbook case of hanger. The only problem is, that small snack seemed to creep closer and closer to dinner time, and it was getting bigger and bigger each day. I don't want dinner, I want a cookie. Brayden shoots back. I smile, suggesting that we go outside and play instead. You know you love playing with your basketball, I say happily. He gives me another look, and without a word he runs to his bedroom, slamming the door behind him. I cringe at the sound of the pictures shaking on the wall, but I brush the feeling off, telling myself that I did the right thing. I imagine that if he tells his father later on that I wouldn't give him another cookie, that Rex will side with me, telling him that he has to do as I say. Overall, Brayden has been doing a great job minding what I tell him, but I can certainly see why there were other nannies who found him difficult to get along with. He is a very headstrong little boy, and he knows what he wants in life. But I grew up taking care of a drug addict mother. A willful little boy is nothing compared to that. The biggest problem I have is that I want to give him everything he asks for, but I have to listen to his father's restrictions and requests as well. Not that Rex is overly strict, but it's not an easy balance, and I'm proud that I'm standing my ground against Brayden right now. I have to admit, he certainly has seemed to take a liking to me, and though I try to tell myself I'm not getting overly attached to him, I know there is nothing that I wouldn't do for that child. I sit down at the table, weary from chasing him around all afternoon, and hoping Rex gets home closer to 4 rather than 5 today. As if in response to my thoughts, the door opens and Rex walks in. I immediately notice that he looks tired and haggard himself. I rise from my chair, wanting to do what I can to help him too. Hello. How was work? I ask with a smile. I no longer worry about him recognizing my voice from our one night together. If ever he were going to recognize me, that time has surely passed. He gives me a tired smile, and I hope my cheerfulness brightens his day. It was fine. I think we finally got our bugs sorted out. How was your day? He asks. My heart leaps in my throat. It's these little conversations that make it so easy for me to get lost in a fantasy of what might have been. of what it might be like if we were a family. I can hide my crush from him, but I can't hide it from myself. The fact of the matter is, I've been fantasizing about being with him since the day I started this job, and it's only getting worse as time goes by. Brayden was good today, though he stormed off to his room because I wouldn't give him another cookie, I say with a laugh, shaking off my girlish thoughts to get back in nanny mode. I hope if I'm the one to break the news to him, then things won't be as tense when Brayden tells his version. Rex looks over at the clock and nods. It's too close to dinner. If he were to have one now, he wouldn't eat. That's what I told him, but I don't think we see eye to eye on this, I say with another laugh. For the first time since he got home, Rex also chuckles. I'm sure he'll be right out. Rex walks out to the kitchen and grabs a glass, then fills it with water, staring out the window as he drinks it. I rack my brain for something to say, but nothing comes to mind. Though I still feel the clear connection between the two of us that's been there since day one, he is different than he was the night I went out with him. There's something about him that's more withdrawn and reserved, and even now I feel that he must be distracted by something. I wonder if it's work. I refuse to consider that it might be another woman. The last thing I want to think about is what might happen if he decides to bring another woman home while I'm here. Do you have a boyfriend? He asks suddenly. My head shoots up. I'm not prepared for that question, especially with it coming out of the blue like that. Sometimes I swear that man can read my thoughts. I wonder why he would want to know such a thing in the first place. I think about how silly and inexperienced I felt when I pretended to be Madison. I don't want to feel that way around him again. A voice inside tells me that I need to impress him. I want him to think that I know what I'm doing. Maybe he'd like that more than how I was when I was being Madison for him. Perhaps I'd be able to distract him from whatever, or God forbid, whoever was clearly on his mind. Off and on. I mean, most of my relationships end up being more physical than romantic. When they fizzle, and then it's on to the next one. I try to sound light-hearted and sophisticated, laughing a little at my bold words, but I can feel his eyes on me. He doesn't laugh with me. In fact, he doesn't even break a smile. Instead, he stands in the kitchen and watches me, his glass of water in his hand. He is staring at me, but I get the impression that he isn't looking at me. There's a faraway look in his eyes, and I can tell that he's once again thinking about something else. Something that isn't here. Something that isn't me. I want to keep going. I want to tell him that I am more than happy to start a romantic relationship, but I worry that might come off as too strong. That he'll be able to see through my words and know that what I really want is a relationship with him. And that'll never do. Before I have the chance to make up my mind, I can see the life come back into his eyes, and it's as though he suddenly snaps back into the moment. He looks at me once more, but this time I can see that he really is looking at me. He smiles awkwardly, and I return it, though I am desperately wishing that I could read his thoughts. Isn't that how it always goes? He states as he finishes his glass of water. I laugh and agree, but to my dismay, he merely puts the glass next to the sink and starts for his bedroom. Thank you so much for taking care of Brayden today. I hope he wasn't too much trouble. No, he was a gem as always, I call after him. I wonder what it would be like to be in his bedroom. I imagine what he looks like as he removes his clothing and puts on something for the evening. I wish that I could be in there with him. I wish he'd throw me on the bed. I wish he'd take me like he did the night at the party. Good, I'm glad to hear it. Anyway, thank you, and I'll see you again in the morning. His voice comes out from the bedroom, and I kick myself. I wish I had the courage to tell him the truth. I want nothing more than to tell him that I was the one he was with that night. I want to tell him that I'd had the time of my life with him, and that I want to be with him again. If I were really bold, I would tell him that I want to make a life together. But I don't have the guts to do that. I don't even have the guts to tell him the truth in the first place. I'll be seeing you. I call out. Reluctantly, I grab my things off the table and head for the door, stopping to tell Brayden good night on my way out. He's playing with his toys and doesn't seem to care much that I'm leaving, and I wonder what it would be like to not have to go. It's a short-lived thought, because I know that no matter what I might fantasize about in my head, that life can never be for me. I push it out of my mind as I gather my jacket and my purse from the door. I can hear the sound of the shower running from Rex's bedroom, and I indulge in thinking about him in there with the water running over him. Once more, I kick myself for not having the guts to tell him what really happened, or who I really am. I accept that I won't be the one to ever tell him, and I shudder to think what might happen if he ever found out at this point. Would he be mad that I wasn't honest? Would he feel disgusted that he'd unknowingly hired an escort to look after his kid? With these less than happy thoughts, I slip my purse over my shoulder and walk out the door. There are some things I know I have to accept in life, and as much as it kills me, I know that accepted that I'll never be a part of Rex's life in the way I wish is one of them. I'll go home and I'll fantasize about him some more, but that'll be the end of it. I am his child's nanny, and that's all that I am to him. As much as I hate to acknowledge it, there is a deep-seated fear in me. I fear that that's the only way he sees me, and that it's the only way he'll ever see me. But most of all, I fear that that's my fault.
Chapter 11.
I have to admit, I don't know what to think of Shoshana. As much as I try to put her out of my mind, knowing that even my mental comparisons of her to a woman I can't stop lusting over and thinking about are highly inappropriate, Shoshana isn't easy to ignore. I feel a connection with her too, but I can't tell if that's just my mind playing tricks on me, because she's the closest thing to Madison that I might ever get the opportunity to have. Even with my own chaotic feelings toward her, I still notice that there is something about her that's not quite right. Every time we talk, I sense this undercurrent of awkwardness, and I don't know why. It's not the same kind of awkwardness that comes from being nervous, and I really doubt that she finds me intimidating, but I don't know what else it could be. I don't like feeling suspicious of people, but there is something that makes me wonder if she's hiding something from me. I remind myself that I don't know much about her past, and whenever I ask key questions about her personal life, she gives me vague answers. If she is hiding something, what could it possibly be? As I sit in my chair and look over the news on my laptop, I think about the interaction we had before she left that afternoon. She seemed very excited to see me. In fact, there was a familiarity about the way she greeted me that seemed disproportionate to us having only known each other for just over a week, especially in our capacity as nanny and employer. Familiarity. That's the strange sensation that always hovers around me every time I speak with her, from the very first moment I opened my door to find her standing there. As much as I try to fight against it, I can't deny that it's there. This afternoon, though, it wasn't just about her greeting. It was the way she lingered. I had intentionally begun taking off my clothes in front of her to see her reaction, and as I think about it now, I realize that she didn't seem nearly as awkward as I would have expected her to be. Especially considering how she behaved when I asked about her love life. Though she made it sound like she was plenty experienced, she wasn't able to make eye contact as she said it. I had pretended that I wasn't listening, but I'd been watching her like a hawk. I wanted to see how she would behave, and I was satisfied in my assessment that she was lying to me. She's not as experienced as she wanted me to believe she is, and I know it. I don't know why she chose to lie to me, and I wish there was a way I could ask her about it without coming off as creepy. Does she have a crush on me, and she thinks that putting out that image will impress me? That doesn't really ring true, though. She's usually nothing but professional around me. Today was her only slip-up, and I can't blame her for that when I'm the one who is bringing up her personal life like that. Now I find myself in a very strange position. In a way, I am her employer. Sure, she might have come from the agency, but I'm the one who's ultimately writing her checks. I wish I could put my finger on what is so familiar about her. Every time we're together, I imagine that we must have met at some point in time, but she said she wasn't from around here, and I haven't been anywhere else in years. She seems young. She couldn't have been someone from my past. Suddenly, I sit up in my chair, my mind spinning. I think about the first time she came in for the interview. I think about the startled way she looked at me when I opened the door, and the strange way she almost seemed to hesitate when she introduced herself. The first time she said my name, it was almost like a question. That was part of the reason I'd first suspected that I might know her from somewhere. There's so much about her that reminds me of Madison that I don't know how it took me so long to put that together. I was fresh off my night with Madison when I first met Shoshana, and yet it took me a couple days. Her smile, the way she says my name, even her overall mannerisms. Really, the only thing that's different between the two is the hair color and maybe the sense of style. I can't really imagine Shoshana showing up anywhere in a dress as sensual and revealing as the one Madison wore that night, but is it possible that she and Madison are one and the same? Is it possible that it's not Shoshana who's hiding a secret, but Madison? Maybe she gave me a false name when she told me her name was Madison. That idea makes a lot more sense. She certainly wouldn't be the only escort working under a false name. Now I understand why I wasn't able to find Madison Goodson anywhere online. She never really existed. But then why was Shoshana working as an escort? And how did she end up on my doorstep the very next day after our night together? Perhaps she needed the money while she tried to find a more stable job. On both sites that I found her on, I was the one who did the searching and messaging. Any job where you have no say over who is doing the actual contacting or hiring, but not be the most reliable. It would be a huge coincidence if this was the same girl, but I know I'm not going to dismiss the possibility until I have more answers. I sit back in my chair, my mind continuing to spin. There has to be some way for me to find out if Shoshana and Madison are actually the same girl, other than asking her outright. If I'm right about all this, then Shoshana felt the need to hide the truth from me for some reason. I don't know if she would come clean even if I asked her right to her face. Whatever her reasoning, she was lying. She could have told me who she was from the beginning, but she decided against it. So, how am I going to figure out the truth without asking her? I rock slowly back and forth thinking. There has to be something that I told Madison that I haven't discussed with Shoshana. There has to be something that I could ask her now to trick her into betraying herself. The thought of the bracelet runs through my mind, and I rack my brain, trying to think of any time I might have seen her in short sleeves in the past week. I come up empty, certain that I would have noticed the bracelet if it was on display like that. And besides, if she's making a point of concealing her identity, then of course she's not going to wear it when she's watching my son. Suddenly, a new thought pops into my brain, and I smile to myself. I'll ask Shoshana out. I'll tell her it's to show my appreciation for what she has done with Brayden, and then I'll take her to the same restaurant that we went to for the party. I form the plan quickly. I'll ask her first thing in the morning if she's ever been to the restaurant, then I'll invite her to go. Once we get there, I'll watch her carefully to see if she gives herself away. I lay my head back on the chair and look up at the ceiling, my heart pounding in my chest. I hope she agrees to go out with me, and I hope even more that she hasn't been to the restaurant, save for the time she went with me as Madison. If this works as I think it's going to, then I'll catch her in the lie. I'll find out the truth. I really do appreciate this. You have no idea how much this means to me. Shoshana tells me again as we take our seats at the table. So far, my plan is working perfectly. She told me she's never been here before, another lie if it turns out I'm right. She agreed to the dinner, and I found a babysitter to watch Brayden so we could go. So far, she hasn't given anything away, but the night is young. We make small talk, and I try my best to put her at ease, to get her back to the place we were that very first night, when we felt so comfortable with each other. This is the most time I've ever spent talking to Shoshana, and it makes me even more certain that she and Madison are the same girl. I start to wonder how I ever could have thought differently. Even still, I watch her like a hawk the entire time, waiting for more concrete evidence. Her eyes travel over the walls, admiring the artwork. They linger on a certain piece, and I follow her gaze. I realize that it's a new piece that wasn't there during the party. Though she recognizes the other pieces, it's clear this is the first time she's seen this one. "What are you looking at?" I ask. "I don't remember that one," she replies absent-mindedly. "Remember?" I ask. I notice the slip immediately, and I see that her cheeks flush crimson. She fidgets with her dress and clears her throat, stumbling over her words. "Yes, I am a fan of art, and I don't remember that piece. Black and white photography is my favorite, and I thought I knew all the famous pieces from the 20s, which is the era that the rest of the collection is from." She smiles at me as she speaks, but I can see in her eyes that she's uncomfortable lying to me so directly. I smirk and draw out my words as I speak, not caring how condescending I might sound. "I see." The waiter comes over and she quickly orders a drink for herself. She's already largely confirmed my suspicions, and I have a feeling that she'll be extra careful for the rest of the dinner, doing everything she can to keep herself in check. Throughout the rest of our conversation, I can tell she's thinking carefully about her answers to all my questions. It's clear to me that she knows how close she came to messing up, and it's a mistake she's not going to make twice if there is any way she can help herself. I'm still doing what I can to push the conversation toward what we discussed the night of the party as innocently as I can, but she's doing an excellent job of evading my questions. I know she's trying to keep her secret safe, and I can respect that. But there's one thing that I can't wrap my head around, and it's the one thing that I'm the most determined to find out before this night is over. Why would she lie to me?
Chapter 12.
I gasp softly, overwhelmed by the way his touch sets every nerve ending alight. I never planned for this. Accepting his invitation to dinner wasn't meant to lead here. But it did. We came back from the restaurant so he could check on Brayden and say goodbye to the babysitter. That was all. At least it was supposed to be. Once the door closed behind her, something changed. He kissed me gently at first, then like he meant it, and I didn't stop him. Couldn't. The pull between us had been building all evening, and once it broke free, there was no turning back. We found our way to the bedroom in a blur of hungry kisses and discarded clothes. His mouth traveled from my lips to my throat down my torso, leaving a trail of fire in its wake. My breath caught, heart pounding as I surrendered to the moment. With Rex, everything feels different. He doesn't rush. Doesn't expect. He gives intensely, purposefully, until I'm trembling with the need to be closer, to lose myself in him. Just like before, that delicious tension coils in my belly, tightening with every second. But then, just as I reach the edge, he pauses. A shift in the air. A hand on my hip. The sensation of being turned, guided. I find myself on my knees, heart racing as he settles behind me, his hands roaming across my skin, firm, possessive, reverent. He explores with the kind of confidence that makes my breath hitch and my body ache. A sharp tug at my hair surprises me, sending a shiver racing down my spine. It shouldn't feel good, but it does. Too good. It sparks something deep, unexpected. Something I didn't even know I craved. In the shadows, I feel the heat of his body behind me. The tension hums louder, building again, ready to snap. I brace myself, reaching for the sheets, as waves of pleasure and anticipation rise like a tide I can't hold back. And then? His hands tighten on my hips. My whole body responds. He doesn't need words. Neither do I. In this moment, everything else disappears. I shift slightly, drawn closer into the warmth of him. His presence surrounds me, steady, grounding, like the eye of a storm I never saw coming. Every part of me feels awake, aware. The way he holds me, The way our breathing sinks, the soft hush of the room, everything feels so intensely alive and impossibly still all at once. I don't want this moment to end. Not just because of how good it feels to be close to him, but because of what it means. Because of what I hope it means. This doesn't feel like something fleeting. It doesn't feel like just another night. With Rex, it feels like more. I want it to be more. Not just heat or habit. I want him to need me, the way I'm beginning to realize I need him. To see me not as a passing distraction, but as something real. Something lasting. He makes me feel safe. Wanted. Like I can let go of all the rules I've lived by and just be. And in his arms I do. He keeps me close, one hand splayed gently over my waist, the other brushing my hair from my face. His breath is soft against my skin, and I feel him exhale, like even he doesn't want to break whatever this is between us. I say the first thing that comes to mind. That was incredible. The words hang between us, familiar and full of meaning. I realize, too late, they're the same ones I said the first time. And something flickers across his face. A shadow of thought. A memory, maybe. But I don't press. Instead, I quietly reach for my bag from beside the bed. A small clink of metal hits the floor, but I don't notice. I'm too focused on steadying my heart, on holding onto the calm that settled over me. In the bathroom, I freshen up and glance at my reflection, lips parted, cheeks flushed, eyes a little softer than usual. I smile to myself, not because everything's figured out, but because right now I feel seen. And that's more than I ever expected. I don't want to get ahead of myself, thinking that this might be the start of something, though I can't deny that there's a part of me that really hopes it is. I would love nothing more than to have a relationship with him. Our dinner tonight just reminded me all over again of all the reasons I fell for him in the first place. I go back out into his bedroom and pull my panties back on. He's got his boxers on and is lying in bed watching me. I hope you'll stay the night, he says. My heart leaps into my throat, and I smile. I was afraid he wasn't going to ask, but now that he has, relief rushes through my body. I'd love to, I reply as I hop back into bed. I am already looking forward to what we'll do in the morning. I'm just going to run home for a second, and then I'll be back, I say the next morning as I come out of the bathroom. I don't have my makeup or anything with me, and I do want to freshen up before taking care of Brayden for the day. Rex is sitting on the end of the bed, looking at something. I hesitate. Did you hear me? I ask. What's this? He replies. Confused, I take a step forward. My heart immediately sinks when I see he's holding my bracelet. Oh, that's nothing. It was a gift from a friend, I say. I'm frantically looking through my purse, confused as to how it could have fallen out. A friend? Or a client? Stop your lying, Shoshana. Your game is up. I can't tell what shocks me the most, his words or the anger I hear in them. I stare at him, blinking blindly for a few seconds as I try to get my bearings. What does he know? What do you mean? I ask, trying to sound innocent but knowing that my words come out as barely more than a whisper. He laughs. Are you really going to play stupid? You think you could just come here to my house every day and that I'd never notice? Your game is up, he repeats. I feel a tightness in my chest, squeezing my lungs so I feel like I can barely breathe. My anxiety is mounting, and I suddenly remember every single argument I ever had with my mother. This is the same feeling that would always come over me right before the carpet would be snatched from under me, and my life would go to hell again. So he knows. He knows everything. And now everything is going to be taken away from me again. My mind is spinning, trying to figure out when he must have made the connection. I should have known when he took me to that restaurant last night. Suddenly, a feeling of defiance wells up in my chest. I feel like I'm going to snap, and I want to take out all of my angst on him. I want to tell him to back off and get out of my life. I want to beat him to the punch. If the carpet is going to be pulled, I want to be the one doing the pulling this time. In all my fear and anger, I laugh. Game? All right, you caught me, I say with a sneer. He looks at me, clearly not amused with my attitude. Why? That's what I want to know, why, he replies. I can see the anger in his eyes, and it only adds fuel to my own. Because I'm tired of life using me up and tossing me aside. I decided it was time for me to take control, and that's what I did. It must be so nice to have the luxury of not having to worry about money, of not worrying about where your next meal is going to come from. I've never had that luxury, and I'm not going to apologize for doing what I had to take care of myself. I pause, realizing I'm on the verge of shouting. I take a deep breath, knowing I'm on the verge of tears and wanting to get out before they come. I'm sorry I'm not the person you thought I was when you hired me to look after Brayden, but I'm not happy? I snatch up my purse, thrusting my arm through the strap. I hope you find what you're looking for, Rex, but you're not going to find it by sleeping with escorts, that's for sure. I speak in a hot, flat tone and turn on my heel, storming through the house and heading for the door. And you're not going to find what you're looking for by pretending to be someone you're not, he shoots back, and I can hear the disdain in his voice. More than anything else that's happened, that stings the most. I suck in a deep breath, trying to collect the pieces of my battered heart as I turned around to look at him one last time. Then I guess I'll be staying away from you and your son from now on, I say, hearing the strain in my voice as I slam the door behind me. I don't care if I wake Brayden. I don't care if I wake the entire neighborhood. As far as I'm concerned, he can get lost. I walk up the sidewalk toward Jasmine's house, my mind still spinning. I want to cry, but there are no tears to be shed. He took me out to that restaurant and brought me home to sleep with me, knowing that I was the escort he had hired that first night. What's that all that he wanted from me? Did he recognize me from the get-go, and was just biding his time until he could humiliate me? No wonder he was so good at taking control, he probably thought he owned me. Of course, he was so disgusted that I would show up and pretend that everything was normal, like I was untarnished enough to be a part of his life. I knew that night was a fairy tale, and I should have let it end then. There were so many emotions floating around in my body, and I had too many questions about how everything had ended so horribly wrong that I couldn't keep track of anything. I just wanted to go home and go to bed. I wanted to forget about all of this. I wanted to pretend that I had never met Rex Jordan. I should have followed Jasmine's rules. I should have kept my work and my life separate.
Chapter 13.
I don't want another nanny. I want Shoshana back. Brayden is holding his teddy bear in one arm and crying, and I feel the tension rising in my chest. I explain to him once again that I understand what he wants, but it isn't something that I can do for him. I knew that Brayden had been warming up to Shoshana, but I'd had no idea just how attached he truly had gotten, and in such a short time. Knowing that is only making all of this that much harder. I'm going to find you someone who is just like Shoshana, bud, don't worry. You're going to love her just as much as you loved Shoshana, trust me. I know I'm being more optimistic about the situation than I genuinely feel, but it's the best I can do right now. The fact of the matter is that I am yearning for Shoshana myself. I would give anything to have her back. I have spent hours trying to figure out how I can convince her to come back, if not for me, then at least for Brayden. But I fear that the damage is done, and that I won't be seeing Shoshana ever again, for real this time. It's been nearly 2 weeks since she left. Nearly 2 weeks since I last spoke to her, and I'm not taking it well. I feel terrible for my son, and I will do anything to fix things for him. Seeing my son in pain hurts me, but I hurt even more for myself and what I've lost. I knew that I'd had lingering feelings for Madison, but I hadn't realized how much comfort I had taken from Shoshana's presence too. How much I had come to rely on her, before ever realizing that she and Madison could be the same person. Knowing that I've lost both women, those two sides of that one intriguing, charming woman, well, it's a constant ache. I had been fine with her leaving that awful morning when we'd fought. In fact, there was part of me that had been glad at the time that she'd quit. I'm not used to people standing up to me. I hate it when people argue with me or challenge me, especially when I know I'm in the right. This is my house, and she had lied to me. She'd had no right to do so, and if anything, she should have been apologizing to me. At the very least, I was owed an explanation. How things got so out of control, I still don't know. One moment I was asking her why she'd lied to me, and the next minute she was quitting. I didn't think getting her to be honest with me was going to be that big of a deal. I had figured she would leave angry, then she would come back to me and explain everything, ask for her job back, and then everything would be fine. Not just fine, but better. But I was wrong. Not only am I without a nanny for my son, without Shoshana, but I'm still left without answers. She never told me why she'd felt the need to lie to me, and that bothers me more than I'd like. Was she not interested in me, so she thought it'd be better not to bring up our night together? Then why did she sleep with me again? She couldn't use her job as an excuse for that second time. Not even the best escort in the world could fake that kind of connection. This kind of second-guessing isn't normal for me, and it's just one more thing that's been messing with my head since she left. I continue to check my phone every day, hoping I'll hear from her. I try sending her messages every now and then. I hope that she'll pick up when I try to call her, but she never does. It's clear to me, and clearer by the day, that she doesn't want anything else to do with me or my son. I tried calling the agency to talk to them about finishing the contract she signed, but I found out from them that she had quit with them as well. That confuses me the most. How can she just quit her job like that? Even worse, it makes me wonder if she's gone back to the escort service. I have to nip that thought in the bud. The thought of her on the arms of other men is too much for me to imagine right now. But now that she's gone, there's nothing else I can do. No amount of desire is going to bring her back to either of us. And though I've made up my mind to find another nanny for Brayden, I know that it's never going to be as good as it was. I pull out my laptop and open the screen before inviting Brayden to come sit with me. Why don't we look through the pictures together, and you can find someone you think looks nice? I say. He clearly debates for a few seconds before he shrugs and comes over to me. I pull him up on my lap and hold him close for a second, thinking about how much I love him. Daddy? I want to see the pictures, he says as he wiggles against me. I reluctantly let him turn around, and together we look at the different profiles of the nannies that are currently available. I scroll through the page slowly, each new profile just reminding me of how no one can compare with Shoshana. Every now and then I see a girl who's similar enough to her that my heart skips a beat, but each time I give it a second glance, I realize that it's just another girl with a similar smile. Brayden, too, seems to be fooled every now and then when he sees some of the women, with their red lipstick and brunette hair. But like my own, his face falls when he realizes that it's not, in fact, Shoshana but someone else. How about her? I ask, finding the girl who looks the least like Shoshana. This is a blonde girl with brown eyes and a bright smile, and though I'm not thrilled with the prospect of hiring her and going through this process again with yet another nanny, I silently pray that my son will like her. He gives her a glance, then shakes his head, and with another silent sigh, I go back to the main screen. We continue to go through the profiles in silence, and I wonder what he's looking for that's kept him from choosing any of the girls. Do you see any that you like? I ask. He doesn't say anything for a moment, so I give him a little nudge. Bud? Do you see any that you would like to meet? I ask again. He sighs and shakes his head when I point to another girl. This one looks a lot more like Shoshana than the last one, which causes a stab of pain to run through my chest. I ignore it, however, trying to think of my son before myself. I tell myself that I'm going to deal with any girl that I hire as little as possible. I'll sign the papers for them to take back to the agency, and I'll verify that they are doing a good job with my son, but I don't have any intention of getting to know any of them. In the past, I have always done what I can to be on good terms with them, knowing Brayden can be difficult to get along with if one isn't used to his temper. But the thought of getting to know any of these women just makes me feel agitated and angry. None of them are the woman I want, and I don't want to even bother getting to know them as a result. I want Shoshana, Brayden says at last. He has spent the past few minutes looking intently at the photo of the girl I pulled up, and I sigh. I was reading through her credentials, and I had to admit that she seems like the best choice of any who are still on the site. He's right. This girl isn't Shoshana, and at the end of the day, that's who we both want. It has nothing to do with how nice these other women are, or how good of a fit they might or might not be. For me, it has nothing to do with their credentials or what they have done in the past with children. None of these other women are Shoshana, and no matter how badly I want them to be, it's not going to happen. Slowly, another thought begins to take root in my brain, and I turn Brayden around to look him in the eye. What do you say you and I go on an adventure? I suggest. He looks at me with surprise in his eyes, and I can see he doesn't know what to say. I used to take him on road trips with me in the past, but that changed when he grew old enough to have a nanny. I was thinking you and I might get away for a little while. You know, until we both feel better. I smile once more, hoping that my enthusiasm will be enough to get him excited as well. He looks at me for a moment, and I can see in his eyes that he's not sure what to say. He shrugs and I laugh. Oh, come on. You know it's going to be fun. You used to love going places with me. I give him a little nudge, and he finally smiles. All right, I want to go, he says at last. He scampers off my lap and runs to his room, and I watch him go, feeling a little better about things. I don't know where we're going or how long we'll be gone, but I know that it's the therapy we both need. Suddenly, I have another thought. If Shoshana isn't working, or God forbid she's gone back to escorting, then that probably means she's struggling to make ends meet. And that means she likely won't have the money she needs for her tuition if he transfer gets approved. I could give her a hand with that, and then leave. She wouldn't even have to know it was me. It'd be a nice little goodbye gift, and maybe it would help give me the closure that I need, while helping her achieve the life that she deserves. I smile as I get off the nanny site and go to the universities. It'd be a great surprise.
Chapter 14.
Hello? I say as I put my phone to my ear. I recognize the school's number, but I'm not sure why they would be calling. I know my records have all been transferred, but I can't start attending class again until I pay tuition. And the problem with that is that I haven't been able to find a job that will pay me enough for both an apartment and tuition. Yes, is this Miss Bailey? The voice asks. Yes, this is she, I reply. I want to know what she wants, but I have to be patient. She's getting to that, but she's certainly taking her time about it. I wonder if she's doing it on purpose. I'm calling to talk to you about attendance, she says. I can hear that she's about to continue, but I interrupt. Perhaps she doesn't know that I haven't attended or even looked into it because of tuition. Yes, I'm aware that my records have been transferred, but I'm working on getting the money together for tuition. I want to start attending as soon as possible, so trust me, I'm working on it. I laugh nervously, as I always do when I'm in this kind of situation. She's kind enough to wait for me to finish ranting, but I can hear she's also trying to speak. Yes, that's what I'm calling to tell you, Miss Bailey. You see, the tuition has been paid in full. I'm calling to determine if you're going to be staying on campus, or if you're living in your own place. The question hangs in the air. My mind is spinning, and I can't think clearly. It doesn't make any sense to me that the tuition is paid. That's impossible. I don't have anyone in my family with that kind of money, nor do I have that kind of relationship with anyone in my family that they would make such a kind gesture. It had to come from someone else, but it certainly didn't make any sense in my mind. Can you tell me who paid the tuition? Was it a scholarship or something? I ask, ignoring her question. Give me just a second, and I'll get that information back to you. She's typing on a keyboard, and I sit on the couch, holding my breath and letting my heart pound in my chest. I have my suspicions about who it might be, but I am not going to say anything until I know for sure. I'm sorry, it looks like it was paid anonymously. I don't have access to those records right now, but if it's really important, I'll be able to get it back to you in a day or two. Her voice doesn't sound apologetic, and I don't want to wait that long. Knowing that it was given anonymously only confirms in my mind who it must have been, so I decline her offer. That's okay. I think I know who it might have been. I just wanted to tell them thank you is all, I lie. I hear her laugh on the other end. Anyway, would you mind telling me where you're going to be living? She turns the conversation back to her original question, and I have a difficult time focusing. This is everything I had been dreaming of since coming to LA, and it's all coming together for me. If I move into the dorms, I no longer have to take up space in Jasmine's home, and I'd even get to have a bed of my own. I could also look for a job and save money for the end of the year, when I won't be able to live on campus anymore. It's the perfect solution to all my problems, and I feel the stress melting away. On campus. I will most definitely be living on campus. I say, not bothering to hide the excitement in my voice. She asks me a few more questions, and I do everything I can to focus and answer them to the best of my ability. I had no idea I was going to be doing this today, and I feel entirely blindsided by the whole situation. By the time she finishes, I can feel my heart pounding in my chest. All right then, I think that's all we need to know. Thank you for your patience, and we look forward to seeing you. I can hardly focus enough to tell her goodbye, and once I hang up the phone, Jasmine comes into the living room from the kitchen. What was that all about? She asks. I'm sitting on the couch with my hand pressed against my forehead. I can't think straight. I want to laugh and cry and scream all at the same time. I'm grateful that this burden has been lifted from my shoulders, but I'm also pissed. I'm pissed that he would take the liberty to do something like this without talking to me first. Ever since I quit working for Rex, my life has been miserable. Looking back on our interaction, I realize how quickly I went on the defensive. I was so worried that he would break my heart, that I ended up breaking my own before he even got the chance. He might have been a little pissed, but really all he did was ask me a few questions that he was entitled to ask me. After I had time to calm down and put my emotions to the side, I realized that I might have jumped to a lot of conclusions that he didn't deserve. I thought he'd been condemning me for my choice to work as an escort, for thinking I could pretend to be someone other than a paid tart. With a clear head, I realized that he would never have judged me like that. Those were just my own issues coming to the forefront and turning on me. I regretted my decision the very next day, but my pride has kept me from going back or even answering his phone calls. After the display I put on, I was hoping I would never have to see his face again, no matter how much I missed him and Brayden. And maybe there was still a little bit of hurt left, too, that's been keeping me from contacting him. I understand that he might have felt betrayed by me not revealing myself right away, but I feel very hurt by the way he tricked me into getting the information he wanted. He could have just asked me for it, but instead it felt like he went to great lengths to use it against me. He accused me of playing games, and that's what I feel like I was to him, one big game. At least I wasn't doing anything maliciously. I feel that I had the right to protect my identity, and I feel that I wasn't at all wrong for not telling him the truth. Of course, there were many times when I wanted to. There were many times when I wanted to come clean and get it all off my chest, but I just couldn't bring myself to do it. That might explain away part of my defensiveness as well. I'd already been feeling so guilty about concealing the truth from him, that I felt he must have been condemning me when he called me out like that. I was projecting my own feelings of shame, of guilt onto him. Someone paid my tuition. I'm going to be moving onto campus, I reply at last. I see Jasmine's eyebrows rise and she gives me an amused look. Well, it would seem that your quitting did do some good after all, she says. I sigh. I never told her the full truth about what had happened either. I didn't want her to know that he was the same man I had gone out with. I didn't want her to think that I was sleeping with my boss. I just didn't want to go down that road with her. I told her instead that my employer wasn't what I thought he was, and that I felt I had to get out of there as soon as possible. She knew he was wealthy, and she seemed to feel that my vague explanation was more than adequate. Once we'd had that conversation, it never came up again. I was looking for a new job, and she continued living the life she loved. I'm happy for you, she says, breaking into my thoughts once more. I force a smile. I'm happy for me too, but I still feel that he overstepped his bounds. Despite that, there's a part of me that tells me I need to go thank him. He's just paid thousands of dollars that have been hanging over my head, preventing me from living my dream. The least I can do is tell him that I appreciate what he's done for me. And ask him why he's done it, come to think of it. I've got to go, I say suddenly as I rise from the couch. I slip on my shoes, and Jasmine watches me with her arms crossed over her chest. Are you sure that's a good idea? She asks. I remind myself that she doesn't know the full story, and I nod as I look back over my shoulder at her. Yes. I think I need some answers, I reply. She gives me an understanding nod, though I'm not sure she really does understand. I don't wait for her to give me any more of her opinion, though. I want to get this over with, as quickly as possible. I put my hands in my pocket and start walking up the street, heading in the direction of Rex Jordan's house. It's a beautiful afternoon, and I know I'm going to have plenty of time to think of what to say. I am grateful for that. I'm going to need it.
Chapter 15.
Hey, can I help you? A gentleman is standing in the middle of the walkway looking at me in confusion as I try to peer into the glass. I rang the doorbell several times, but no one came to the door, nor was there any sign of life within the house. I found it strange, as the car was still in the drive, and it appeared as though someone had been at the house recently. I turn and look at him with raised eyebrows, wondering why he feels that he ought to get involved. Yes, a friend of mine lives here, and I really need to speak with him. I don't have his phone number anymore, and I was hoping I would catch him. I smile. I don't like this man, and I really want to tell him to get lost. But I don't want to get in trouble for trespassing, if that's what he thinks I'm doing. Well, perhaps you ought to speak with your friend more often. He's heading out of the country for a while, and he's asked me to take care of things while he's gone. So I'm going to ask you to kindly please leave, and I hope I'm not going to be seeing you around here again. The man crosses his arms, and I can see in his eyes that he's trying not to openly threaten me. But he's made his point clear. I can't believe what he's said, however, and I take a step forward. What do you mean he's out of the country for a while? Where did he go? How long is he going to be gone? Did he take Brayden with him? I ask the questions so quickly that the man doesn't have the time to reply in between. He uncrosses his arms and looks at me with raised eyebrows, clearly feeling less threatened now that it's obvious I know Rex. Of course he's taking his son with him. How many parents do you know who wouldn't? He asks with a laugh. I want to tell him that my own parents ditched me at the earliest convenience, but I bite my tongue. There are more important things to talk about right now. I need to catch him. When did he leave? I ask. My chest is rising and falling with deep gulping breaths, and I feel my palms growing sweaty. Even though I thought I was done with Rex Jordan, hearing that he's leaving the country, that I won't have any way of seeing him or hearing his voice, makes me go into panic mode. Whatever questions I had for him, whatever anger I still feel, it all melts away at this stark realization that he won't always be around, waiting for me to forgive him or for me to come back. They left early this afternoon. He watches me as he speaks, but I merely stomp my foot on the pavement. But where? Where did they go? talk to me, man. I snap. I don't want him to think that I'm crazy, but I'm feeling nothing but frustration. They're at the airport as far as I know, but that's all you're going to get out of me. He crosses his arms once more. I don't need anything else. All I need now is to get to the airport before they have the chance to get on a plane. A taxi is driving by, and I run forward, waving my arms and praying that I will get the driver's attention. My heart skips a beat as he pulls to the side, and I throw open the door. I need to get to the airport as soon as possible. I fairly shout as soon as I get in. He doesn't ask questions, but instead leaves 2 black streaks on the pavement as he screeches out of the space and back onto the road. I stare out the window, but I'm not seeing anything. All I can think about is the fact that Rex is leaving, and that I have to talk to him before he does. I don't know when he's going to be back. And talking to that strange man, I dare say that I don't know if he's even going to be coming back. It seemed to me that man was hiding something, and he didn't want to give me any more information than he already had. I throw a wad of money at the cab driver and leap out of the cab as soon as we're in front of the airport. I don't know how much I owe him, but I know that the money I gave him is more than enough to cover the fare, and it would give him a nice tip as well. I run inside the airport, scanning each face I see. My mind is still spinning, making it difficult for me to find who I'm looking for. I read the board, looking for international flights. I can't imagine them going on an extended trip through the States. There are only a couple, and I know the gates for those are my best chance at finding Rex and Brayden. I run to the first of the 2, scanning faces once more. I'm about to move on to the next gate when suddenly, out of the corner of my eye, I recognize Brayden's jacket. He and Rex are sitting together with their backs turned to me, but I'd know that jacket anywhere. Taking a deep breath, I hurry forward, hoping my nerve holds with each step I take. Rex? I say as soon as I'm within earshot. He looks up, surprised, and I can see the shock in his face when he recognizes me. Shoshana? What are you doing here? He asks. He's looking around, as though he expects to see someone with me. I had to talk to you. I know what you did. Thank you. Rex. I'm sorry. I struggle to get the words out, and I sob. I don't know why all these emotions are overtaking me now, in the middle of the airport, but I'm not going to fight them. I love you, Rex. I couldn't let you leave without telling you. I'm sorry for what I did. I was just so scared. I didn't know what to do. I'm sorry. The words continue to pour out of my mouth, and I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. I'm sorry I overreacted so much, and walked out instead of talking to you. I should have explained, but I was scared again. I can't hold back my sobs, but Rex is on his feet, and he puts his hands on either side of my face, tilting my chin up to look into his eyes. Shoshana, please. Don't cry. I wanted to do one last thing for you, to help you before we parted ways. I'm sorry too. He pulls me close, but I want to pull away. I don't want to make a scene in the airport. I think this man's already seen me make enough scenes, and I feel like people are already staring. I'm so sorry for what happened. I just wanted to hear the truth from you so we could start fresh. I didn't mean to cause you any pain or hurt. I didn't think it would make you leave, or else I never would have done it. I push away from his chest, needed to look into his eyes to establish that connection again. I had to tell you I love you, I sob. He pushes me back, stroking my hair, comforting me. Shoshana, I love you too. That's why I have to leave. I can't live my life here knowing that I can't be with you. I don't know how you did it, but you've touched our lives in a way I never expected anyone to ever again. He lets his voice drift off, and I put my hands over his, looking up into his face. Then stay. If you're leaving because of me, please stay, I say. He looks at me. I can see his eyes searching my face, and he looks down at his son. What do you say, Brayden? Think we can reschedule our trip? No one's ever said Brayden isn't a smart boy. He's nodding his head enthusiastically, a grin on his face. Only if Shoshana can come next time. I looked down at Brayden, scuffing his hair, touched at this sign of caring from the sweet boy. Thank you, Brayden. I'd love to join if that's okay with your dad. I look back to Rex, suddenly feeling shy. Without another word, Rex leans forward, pressing his lips to mine. It is the most romantic kiss we've shared. No lust this time, only love. I don't know how long we stand in the center of the airport, but at last he pulls back. I'd love that, he says. And I love you. He punctuates that with another kiss. Boarding now. The voice comes over the intercom, and Brayden looks up. I think we can settle for a much smaller adventure for now. What do you say, bud? Rex asks his son. I think you and me should take Shoshana to get some ice cream. What do you think? Rex looks down at his son, and Brayden claps his hands and enthusiastically agrees. What do you think? Rex then asks, turning to me. I feel my cheeks flush, and I smile. I think that sounds like a wonderful idea, I say. He takes my hand in his and gives it a squeeze, and Brayden puts his hand in the other. Together, we walk through the airport to the nearest ice cream parlor. For the first time, a family. The end.
Sneak peek for Under Her Skin. We hope you enjoyed listening to Nanny Knows Best by Michelle Love. Now please listen to a sneak peek for Under Her Skin by Michelle Love. Under Her Skin, a Bad Boy Billionaire Romance.
Chapter 1.
Arturo Bacci smiled at his guests as he raised his glass. Tomorrow, the final apartment in the Villa Patrizzi will go up for auction, and I've been assured by the seller that it will finally be mine. So friends and fellow investors, let's drink to Lake Como's finest and most exclusive hotel, the future Hotel Bacci. His friends cheered and applauded him, and Arturo stepped off the stage to talk with his guests. After an hour where it seemed he'd shaken hands with everyone in northern Italy, he was relieved when his best friend Peter spirited him away. Fortitude and strength, Peter grinned at his friend as they sat down at the edge of Arturo's estate, overlooking Lake Como's gentle waves. Further across the water, an alpine town nestled into the mountains softly lit up the night. Peter had snagged a bottle of scotch for them, and they lit cigars. Peter smiled at his friend's satisfied expression. So close now, Arturo. Can you see it coming together quickly after the sale is settled? Arturo nodded. I can. Everything is in place, the construction teams, architects. Everyone is just waiting for my go order. Gosh, Peter, it seems like finally, my dream is coming true. His green eyes shone with excitement. I was rethinking the name though. Hotel Bacci seems a little self-indulgent. Peter shrugged. Not necessarily, but I take your point. The main thing is, we're close. Do you think the apartment will sell for much? Arturo shook his head. It's tiny, only 4 rooms. I'm going to turn it into a suite, with the adjoining apartment. I think I'll get it for a steal. The board has set a price limit, so after we secure it, we'll be able to afford to go ahead with every design feature as planned. He sighed as he continued. A part of me wishes that I'd used my own money, then I wouldn't have to answer to anyone about budgets. But my accountant wouldn't let me. He shot a mock scowl over to his friend, who shrugged good-naturedly. I just didn't want you to go broke, buddy. With this and your other hotels around the world, you're stretching yourself and you know it. You can't rely on your trust fund to keep you afloat. Filippo could withdraw it at any moment. Arturo sighed. His uncle Filippo had been made executor of Arturo's father's will because Arturo was too young to take over the company after Federico died. Soon after, the grieving teenager had tumbled into alcohol and illicit substances, and since then, Filippo had handed out Arturo's inheritance in regulated increments. Arturo would inherit the bulk of his inheritance, nearly €1 billion, at age 40. He both admired and resented his uncle for his decisions, but his caution had forced Arturo to leave the wild life behind and work towards his own fortune. Property had been Arturo's chosen career path, and with his natural talent and flair for it, He had earned his first €1 billion by the time he was 30. Now at 39, he was on the cusp of adding this inheritance to his own fortune and becoming one of the world's richest men. Arturo lived for his work, but he also enjoyed the trappings of his wealth, and it didn't hurt that he was considered one of Italy's, perhaps even one of the world's, handsomest and most eligible bachelors. A face that could look warm and friendly one moment, and dangerous and brooding the next. His teenage beauty had matured into a more masculine and sculptured face. His large green eyes ringed with thick midnight black lashes, his brows dark and heavy, his beard trimmed but not overly fussy, his sensual mouth just a hint too full, his wild black curls untamed. It had to be said, Arturo Bacci was sensational, and he knew it. He had no time for relationships, and was always honest with his many conquests, but Arturo never slept with the same woman twice. Not since Flavia, his sweetheart in college. He had loved Flavia with all his heart. She was his future, his true north, his love. And Flavia had loved him for himself, not the rich, handsome boy born into wealth and opportunity, but the goofy, fun-loving boy with the big heart and poetry in his soul. They were inseparable until that one fateful night when Arturo had been 10 minutes late to the party. And in that brief window, Flavia crossed paths with the wrong man. A man driven by something dark and twisted. A week later, they found Flavia by the lake. Arturo rushed there the moment he heard the news on the radio, arriving just in time to see her being pulled from the water. Her long dark hair clung to her still form, her complexion pale and lifeless. The lake had erased the visible traces of what had happened to her, but the truth was written all over the faces of the rescue crew. Arturo collapsed to his knees and cried out in anguish until his friends Peter and George came to pull him away. Arturo thought of Flavia now, her kind brown eyes shining up at him. As usual, her image turned his mind to imagining how scared, how terrified she must have been as her killer took her life. Gosh. An involuntary groan slipped out, and Peter glanced at his friend. You okay? Arturo nodded, not trusting himself to speak. Peter, who had always been able to read Arturo's mind, looked at him with sympathy. Flavia? Arturo nodded. Maybe, Hotel Flavia. Peter sighed. Arturo, as sweet as that gesture would be, it's not going to help you allow her to rest in peace. It's been 20 years, buddy. Arturo nodded, knowing Peter was right. His eyes slid across the lake to George's villa. George Galliano, his other friend on that night. A friend no more. Hey. Peter nudged his shoulder. Stop wallowing. Let's get back to your guests. Arturo threw back the rest of his scotch, his gaze returning to the almost empty villa across the lake, Villa Patrizzi that he owned 99% of right now. Tomorrow, it would belong to him entirely. He couldn't wait. Hero Donati looked around the tiny apartment. She had persuaded the realtor to let her in, even this late at night, so she could be prepared for tomorrow. This place was perfect, tiny, compact, but with a balcony that looked out over the lake where she could sit and sketch or read or just be. Peace. Serenity. How often she had wished for that feeling over the past 2 years. Here she could imagine regaining at least some of it. Back at her hotel, she checked her bank account for the 100th time, making sure the money was transferred and ready for the auction tomorrow. Then she went to soak in the tub. She wound her long dark hair up onto her head. I really ought to get this cut, she thought. Her hair hung down past her waist now. She hadn't been to a hairdresser since she didn't know how long. She risked a glance in the mirror, but then looked away again. Her dark eyes still had that haunted look she had grown accustomed to, but she could no longer bear to look at herself for long. Hero Donati had been adopted at birth by an Italian-American businessman and his wife who already had one daughter, Imelda. Hero's birth mother had been a young Indian student at one of Milan's colleges who had become pregnant by her Italian romantic partner and had given her child up for adoption, unable to care for the baby herself. From her mother, Hero had inherited a dark beauty, a beacon for so much male attention that Hero learned to deliberately downplay her appearance. She became intentionally tomboyish, wore thick-rimmed spectacles, and had remained resolutely single until she met Tom. Tom, with his merry gray eyes and blonde hair, hadn't put the moves on her at all. Instead, they routinely sat together in classes at their college in Chicago and made fun of all the rich kids. Tom, working class from Wisconsin, had become her best friend and then one night her romantic partner. They married the day after graduation, and Beth had been born a year later, the family settling in Chicago. Hero had become a mother and wife, and to her shock she loved it. Hero worked on her doctorate while raising Beth, and she and Tom had been blissfully happy together. Even Hero's sometimes fraught relationship with her adoptive family had improved. Beth was a radiant ball of utter joy and love, and even Hero's sister Imelda, who didn't have a maternal bone in her body, adored the young girl. 3 years, 4 months, and 6 days later, it all came to a brutal end. The family had been driving to Wisconsin to spend Christmas with Tom's family, when a drunken driver slammed into their Volvo at high speed. Though 3-year-old Beth was killed instantly, Tom lingered in a coma until pronounced brain dead on day 5. His parents had made the decision to turn off his life support because Hero couldn't. She was also in a coma and not expected to survive. When she woke 3 months later, she wished she hadn't. Not one word could describe the depth of her heartbreak. Both her worried parents and Tom's bereaved parents tried to reach her, but no one could. On her behalf, they sued the drunk driver's employers and secured Hero a settlement just shy of $11 million. But even so, Hero couldn't even begin to think about starting again. For months, she stayed at home in the apartment she had shared with her husband and daughter, and let life go on without her. Eventually, it took 2 incidents to shake her out of the fugue. The first episode still seems unbelievable to Hero. One night, rather than sit home wrapped in Tom's sweater with Beth's favorite blankie nuzzled next to her face, something snapped inside Hero. She put on her tightest dress and all her makeup and went out to a nightclub in the city. Drinking herself into a manic mood, dancing, making out with strangers, she fully intended to sleep with someone just to numb the pain, but she chose wrong, so wrong. As soon as the man got her into his car, he turned violent, and Hero fought for her life, quickly escaping only after punching her attacker hard in the groin. She caught a cab home, and inside her apartment, Hero spent the rest of the night alternating between sobbing and screaming. One of her neighbors had called Imelda. "I think Hero needs you." Imelda, who had never been an overly warm person, stripped Hero off and put her in the shower. Feeding her oatmeal, strong coffee, and sleeping pills, she put her adoptive sister to bed and stayed with her while she slept it off. The next day, Hero dutifully listened to Imelda's harsh pep talk. Imelda didn't mince her words. "I don't care what you do, Hero, but do something. Go off on a world trek, open an art gallery, go teach in China. But you need to snap out of this. Tom and Beth are dead." Hero had turned on her sister. "Do you think I've forgotten, Melly? I know they're dead. I wish I were too. Geez." Imelda regarded her coolly. "Then do it. End your life. Be that selfish. Mom and Dad need that on top of losing Beth. Do it." Hero had stared at her sister, dumbfounded. She knew Melly was just trying to shock her out her funk, but at that moment, she hated her sister. Hated. "I have to get out of this damn country." "Good. Do it. Bye now." Imelda had walked out, calling back over her shoulder. "And if I see you again, it'll be too soon." What a nightmare. Hero was angry now, but her anger had become a cold, silent thing that ate away at her soul. She would escape. She would go back to Italy. She still held citizenship there after all. Maybe she would try and find her mother or her father, her birth parents. Maybe. She just knew she couldn't stay in Chicago a moment longer. Banishing those thoughts of the past as far as she ever managed to, Hero climbed out of the tub and headed to bed. Tomorrow she would bid for that small apartment in the Villa Patrizzi. She would win it. And then she would move into it. And maybe then she could restart her life.
Chapter 2.
The great terrace of the Villa d'Este in Cernobbio was packed with Lake Como's elite, the women gorgeous, the men handsome in their designer suits, as they drifted around, champagne in hand, socializing before the auction began. There was only one lot in this auction, and as Arturo arrived, he went to find the auctioneer and to shake his hand. "I'm looking forward to this, Claudio." The older man nodded. "It certainly has the feel of an event, Signore Bacci. I have a feeling you will be a very happy man by the end of today." As Arturo started toward Peter, who he could see across the room, he was frequently stopped by both attractive women and admiring men, all wanting a few moments of his coveted attention. By the time he finally reached Peter, who was rolling his eyes and smirking, Arturo's confidence was sky-high. "Peter, my friend, this is a good day." "Cautious optimism, Turo," Peter said, his Canadian stoicism at full power. Arturo grinned at his friend. When they'd met at Harvard, they quickly found they had the same irreverent sense of humor. Peter had been the ladies' man of the college, and he relished his role. Arturo had Flavia and was deliriously happy. It had been only after Flavia was murdered that Peter showed his serious and loyal side. He never left Arturo's side during the funeral and the subsequent murder investigation, within which Arturo was a natural suspect. Luckily for him, he had a strong alibi. The reason he was late to the party that day was he had been helping a young mother change a burst tire in the pouring rain. The woman happened to be the daughter of the local newspaper owner, and when Arturo was questioned, she came forward immediately. Peter Armley was a year older than Arturo, already 40 and still resolutely single. Unlike Arturo, he was picky about who he slept with and always called them back, even if just to say goodbye. He was on good terms with most of his former girlfriends, and had even dated a couple for significant periods of time. A tall man, an inch shorter than Arturo's 6'6", Peter could easily pass as a Roman citizen wearing a toga and laurel wreath in the Colosseum. His handsome face looked to be hewn from rock, but when he smiled his blue eyes shone with warmth. His close-cropped brown hair was always neat and his suits were Seville Row. A math genius, he was recruited by Filippo to be the company's financial director, and to look after Arturo's finances. Arturo teased his friend about being his accountant, but it really was down to Peter's handling of the finances that Arturo was the man he was now. "Listen," Arturo told his friend, "I just want you to know that if everything goes well with this auction, it's entirely down to you, Pete. You picked me up out of the sinkhole. I love you, brother." "My pleasure." Pete smiled and looked at his watch. 20 minutes. Arturo nodded. "Gotta go pee before it kicks off. Hold my champagne." He made his way into the villa and found the restroom on the second floor. It was quiet up here, and Arturo relaxed in the moment's peace before the auction started. Stepping out of the restroom, he made his way back towards the stairs and then stopped. At the far end of the hallway, a woman was staring out of the window, her features in profile, and Arturo's heart nearly stopped. Her long dark hair falling in soft waves was pulled over one shoulder, and she looked so sad it made Arturo's chest hurt. Her resemblance to Flavia was so uncanny that everything in Arturo's body screamed at him to go to her. She was wearing a white dress that ended just above the knee, the dress molded to her body, the soft curve of her belly, the long legs. Seeming to sense his scrutiny, she suddenly looked up at him, and Arturo's chest tightened at the depth of sadness in her lovely dark eyes. He wanted to know what was making this beautiful woman so unhappy, and how to make her smile again. "Buongiorno," he said softly. She blinked at him, those big doe eyes a little startled at his speaking. "Buongiorno." A soft, American-accented voice. Her lips were plump, pink and parted slightly, and Arturo felt his body respond, becoming aroused by this mysterious stranger. They stared at each other for a long moment, before she turned away. "Scusi?" She disappeared back into the hotel, and Arturo stepped forward, ready to pursue her, but then he heard Peter's voice from the stairs. "Turo? They're ready. Let's go." Arturo hesitated, his heart still thumping hard against his chest. Gosh, what a beautiful woman, he had to know who she was. Turo? Come on. Hotel Bachi awaits. A half hour later, Arturo was no longer thinking of the beautiful woman, nor was he in a good mood any longer. How did that happen? It did happen, right? He'd been outbid. He, Arturo Bachi, had been outbid. The apartment was sold, and not to him. He could feel the stares of his friends, colleagues, and investors as he tried to process what had just happened. Bidding had started off as expected, somewhere in the low 100,000s, and had quickly shot up to almost $1 million. Arturo had shot a smug look at Peter, then at George Galliano, who raised his champagne glass at him, somewhat sarcastically. Then it had all gone to hell. Just as the auctioneer was about to bring down the hammer, there was a new bid. $2 million. A hush ran through the crowd. Arturo rocked back in shock, and scanned the attendees to see who the new bidder was, but he or she wasn't giving themselves away. 2.5, he shot back. $3 million. Peter was looking alarmed, shaking his head at Arturo. The top end of their budget for the apartment was only $1.5 million, and in any case, the apartment was only worth a tenth of that. $4 million, Arturo called it, and Peter made a disgusted noise. Turo, no. $5 million. Another, louder gasp in the crowd, and a hum of astonishment. Peter grabbed Arturo's arm as the auctioneer looked at him. Signore Bachi? Arturo, if you do this, I'm out. I mean it, I quit. You cannot do this. It's reckless, and you'll be humiliated. Whoever this is, obviously money is nothing to them. Let it go. We'll figure out something else. Arturo stared at his friend helplessly. Peter wasn't kidding, but it was Arturo's dream that was slipping away. Signore Bachi? Everyone was staring at him. Peter's eyes were fierce, and finally Arturo shook his head, his heart sinking. No. Another hum of gossip, and then the hammer came down. Sold for €5 million. To whom? Yes, to whom? Who bought it? The questions came thick and fast. The auctioneer held his hands up. I'm sorry, my friends. This is a buyer who wishes to remain anonymous. Arturo felt a rising anger. They won't be anonymous for long, he said grimly, and Peter sighed, mostly from relief. Let's get out of here, Turo. I'll buy you a drink. On their way out, and despite his anger, the thought of the beautiful woman drifted through his mind again, and he looked around, disappointed when she was nowhere to be found. He needed something physical, something to burn off the frustration. Even as he thought it, he felt a wash of shame. No. She wasn't someone he could forget the next morning. Something about her spoke to him in more than just desire. He felt connected with the deep sadness in her lovely face. He was still thinking about her as he got into Peter's Lamborghini, who drove them back to the bar in Como he and Peter owned, and he found, strangely, his anger had dissipated quicker than he would have thought. He had to see her again, that much Arturo knew. He had to see her again, and soon. Because more than anything now, on this day of disappointments, he wanted to see her smile.
Chapter 3.
Hero's hand shook as she signed the documents which would make her the owner of the Villa Patrizzi apartment. €5 million. Holy hell. She'd had no idea she would go that high for what was essentially only 4 small rooms, but as the bidding went higher, it had become imperative that she secure it. It seemed impossible that she wouldn't. Of course, that was when she saw who she was bidding against. Him. The man she had seen upstairs, the man whose physical beauty had sent her body into a frenzy of arousal after just one look. His green eyes, brooding and dangerous, his dark curls, his incredible body in that exquisite suit. Geez. As they had stared at each other, all Hero could think about was the space between them, and how badly he wanted to close it. Her thoughts tangled with curiosity and craving, her cheeks warm as she imagined the man beneath the suit. And immediately, she was ashamed. She'd never felt that way about anyone, even Tom. She had loved Tom with every cell in her body, but they had been best friends before they were romantic partners. But the look in the man's eyes had mirrored her own desire, intense and spoken, undeniable. She knew if she gave the smallest signal, if she so much as whispered that she wanted him, he wouldn't hesitate. And she wanted to punish him for making her feel like that, making her feel so disloyal to Tom's memory, for taking that away from her. So she bid a ridiculous amount to beat him to the apartment. And won. It was a Pyrrhic victory at best. $5 million was a massive chunk of her settlement, and the apartment was definitely not worth it. She pushed the thought away as she shook hands with the auctioneer. Would it be possible for you to call me a cab, please? Of course, madam. Please wait here and make yourself comfortable. Hero sat back and tried to steady her shaking hands. Maybe she'd go out to eat tonight, walk through the town, mingle with the tourists, try to feel like a human being again. The paperwork on the apartment would go through quickly now, and she would be able to move in by the end of the week. Not that she had anything to move in apart from her clothes, her art supplies, and her books. She would have to find a record player somewhere and some vinyl. Ella Fitzgerald, Billie Holiday, maybe some Paolo Conte. She could see herself sitting out on the balcony overlooking the lake, her watercolor paints in front of her, listening to Billie. That, to Hero, was her idea of heaven. Maybe lunch, fresh bread, some cheese, a bag of sweet, juicy peaches. Cold white wine. The image was so appealing she found herself smiling to herself. And when the auctioneer came to tell her the cab was waiting, she found herself shaking his hand far more enthusiastically than she meant to. Back at her hotel, she changed out of the form-fitting dress and back into her usual uniform of a gray marl t-shirt and jeans. She glanced in the long mirror, noting that she should really try to dress better. You look beautiful no matter what you wear. Tom's words came back to her. Her eyes filled with easy tears, and she dashed them away impatiently. Stop wallowing. She should go out into the city now, do some window shopping or maybe actual shopping. I have a new home. Time to get to know it. She grabbed her bag, slung it across her body, and left the hotel room. It was late by the time Peter left Arturo at the bar and went home. Arturo, buzzy on a few vodkas, sat outside at one of the small tables, smoking a cigar and people watching. People watching and brooding over his loss today. Damn it. Peter had talked him down from bribing the auctioneer to tell him who had purchased the Villa Patrizia apartment. Dude, don't be dumb. Wait a couple of weeks until the person moves in, then knock on the door. What if they have no intention of moving in? What if they just bought it to mess with me? An idea struck. I bet it was George. Peter sighed. Don't even start, man. This feud between you two, it's gone on long enough. Arturo's eyes narrowed. He slept with Flavia, Pete. He got involved with my girlfriend, and then threw it in my face after she was murdered. Peter nodded, his blue eyes serious. I know, Turo. But we all lost Flav too. You knew he had feelings for her, and admit it, you did flaunt it in front of him. Arturo looked away from his friend's gaze. I was young and stupid. And so was he. Arturo shook his head. It's gone too far now, Pete. Why did he have to tell me? I already had the image of Flavia dead, gutted, and then he gave me another of the two of them together. His pleasant buzz wavered dangerously at the memory. Turo, stop, Peter warned. Move on. George didn't buy the apartment. I saw him leave before the auction began. Arturo sighed. Fine. But he could have sent a proxy. His friend's dark look finally broke through his moody, drunken haze. Okay, I'll stop. Peter looked at his watch. Man, I have to go. I'll come over in the morning. We'll talk about what we do next. So now Arturo rose from the table, throwing down money for the drinks, and took off into town. He wandered aimlessly around the side streets for a time, but as he turned down an alleyway to double back to his car, he caught sight of a woman walking in front of him. He enjoyed the sway of her hips, the curve of her waist, her rounded perfect butt. She only wore a gray t-shirt and jeans, but the way she moved. She stopped and turned to look into a bright shop window, and Arturo felt his pulse quicken as he saw her profile. It was her. His white dress girl from the Villa d'Este. For a moment, he just watched her. Gosh, she was beautiful, achingly, heartbreakingly so. He walked up behind her, and met her gaze in the reflection in the window. He read so much in her lovely eyes: sadness, resignation, heat. Neither of them spoke for a long moment. Then Arturo gently slid his arm around her waist, his fingers brushing lightly over her stomach through the thin fabric of her t-shirt. Her eyes widened, and he hesitated, unsure if he'd crossed a line or misread the moment entirely. But then she leaned back against him, her hand finding his with quiet certainty. Arturo let out a soft breath and drew her closer. He swept her hair over one shoulder and pressed a tender kiss to the side of her neck. She turned in his arms and gazed up at him, her eyes wary but full of desire. He stroked her cheek with his thumb. Bon noche. She cut him off with a swift, hard press of her lips to his. No names? Her voice was a low, gruff whisper, but it sent thrills through his body. He nodded and offered her his hand. She took it, only hesitating a little, and slowly he led her back to his car. He turned to her, confirming. Yes? She nodded, and he opened the passenger door for her. What are you doing, man? You don't even know her name. But he hushed the inner voice and slid into the driver's seat. He gently brushed a lock of her hair over her ear. Guess what we're going to do? A smile. At last, a smile. Small, hesitant, but a smile. He couldn't take his eyes off her exquisite face. He leaned in to kiss her again, lingering over it before starting the car and heading towards his villa.
Chapter 4.
Hero, for the second time that day, couldn't stop trembling. What are you doing? She asked herself, over and over. Confusion. Longing. Adrenaline. All of it rushed through her, but none of it compared to the pull she felt toward the man beside her. When he appeared behind her earlier, and their eyes met in the mirror, something shifted. Something unspoken but undeniable. And when his hand had gently touched her stomach, how had he known that was the place that made her feel most alive? Her resolve had vanished like mist. Now, as he parked in front of his villa and stepped out to open her door, she could barely register the grandeur of the place. Her focus was entirely on him, on the way he laced his fingers through hers as they walked silently through the foyer, up the stairs, and into a room that felt both unfamiliar and inevitable. When he kissed her, it wasn't rushed or possessive. It was deep, intentional. Like he'd been waiting for this moment just as long as she had. Her breath caught as the world faded around them, the weight of her thoughts replaced by the warmth of his presence. I've wanted to know you, he murmured, his voice low and rough with meaning. She nodded, words caught in her throat. And then there were no more questions. No more doubts. Just the quiet surrender of two people letting go of everything they thought they'd been holding on to. Time melted away. Later, as Hero lay there in silence, the quiet pressed gently around her like a cocoon. She didn't feel exposed or uncertain. She felt known. He returned after a moment, his presence grounding her again. She felt his hand find hers, his thumb brushing gently along the back of her knuckles. You're incredibly sensitive, he said with a soft smile. She laughed quietly, her eyes shining in the dim light. Gosh, what you do to me. Something in her chest opened at the look in his eyes, tender, curious, unguarded. He leaned closer, brushing a loose strand of hair away from her cheek. Tell me your name, lovely girl. But she shook her head. No names? This is perfect just the way it is. Then, let us call each other. He cast around for two names, then spotted the book on his nightstand. Beatrice and Benedict. From Much Ado About Nothing. He was surprised when her face flamed red. What? Nothing. You like Shakespeare? He nodded. Very much. You? Some. I studied him at college, but I have to say I prefer more modern writers. Arturo smiled. Such as? McCarthy, Angelo, Arundhati Roy. Haruki Murakami. Arturo smiled. I'm also a fan of Murakami. Favorite book of his? Kafka on the Shore. Same. She looked skeptical, and he held his hands up. I swear, Principessa. I'll believe you. They gazed at each other for a long time, then she raised her hand to his face and cupped his cheek. You're really beautiful. Arturo grinned, inclining his head. Thank you. She giggled at his confidence. I forgot Italian men had no time for false modesty. Arturo propped himself up on his elbow next to her. Forgot? You don't live here? I didn't. I just relocated here. I was born here, but I've spent most of my life in the States. Whereabouts? Chicago. He smiled. Nice town? But he noticed the sadness was creeping back into her eyes. He bent his head and kissed her. Beautiful girl, what is it? Why do you look so sad? What is your pain? She stared at him for a long time, then sat up. I have to go. She reached for her clothes and began to put them on. Arturo was bemused by the sudden change in atmosphere. Did I say something wrong? Or do something wrong? She shook her head, looking as if she were close to tears. No. She stopped, hesitated, and then pressed her lips to his for a second. You're perfect, she whispered, leaning her forehead against his, closing her eyes. But that's why I have to go. He felt her tears on his cheek and cradled her face in his hands. Don't go. Stay. Stay with me. She shook her head. I can't. Arturo felt an ache in his chest. He didn't want this night to end, didn't want her to go away from him. At least let me drive you back home. She hesitated, those dark brown eyes wary, but then nodded. Thank you. They didn't speak as he drove her back to her hotel, but Arturo held her hand, and she didn't pull away. At her hotel, he walked her to the door. Can I call you? I don't think that's a good idea. Tonight has been a revelation. Please, let's leave it as perfect as it has been. Unhappy, he took her in his arms and kissed her. I will never forget you. If you change your mind, my name is Arturo Bacci. Everyone here knows me. You only have to call. She kissed him again, lingering as if to memorize the feel of his lips against hers. Goodbye, Arturo Bacci. I'll never forget you either. Reluctantly, he let her go, watching her walk into the hotel and out of his life. He got back into the car and felt utterly bereft, even, he was astonished to find, a little heartbroken. She was the most amazing, sensual woman, and he wanted to know everything about her, and never let her go. He hadn't felt like this since Flavia, and maybe not even then. Guilt crept in, but he couldn't deny his feelings. His white dress girl, his Beatrice had woken something in him he didn't think he'd ever felt before. Arturo shook himself and started the car. As he drew away from the hotel, every meter he drove further away from her hurt more. But she had been clear, it wasn't meant to be. Forget it, he said miserably, and pressed down hard on the gas pedal. He'd seen the girl at the auction, and his breath had been taken away. At first, he thought he was hallucinating. Flavia, but no, this girl was petite and curvy, whereas Flavia had been tall and willowy, and although he hated to admit it, this girl was even more achingly beautiful than Flavia. He'd been absorbed in the auction at the time, and hadn't seen her slip away. Imagine his surprise when he'd followed Arturo through the streets of the town and watched as they'd found each other. Following Arturo's Mercedes, he watched them go into the Villa Bacci, saw Arturo's bedroom light go on. They were being intimate. Of course they were. There wasn't a woman in Como that Arturo hadn't been with intimately. Why would this girl be any different? Because she was a newcomer. He could tell by the way she walked through the town, studying everything as if it were new. He wondered if she had family close or friends. When Arturo had driven her back to her hotel, He followed her into the hotel, heard her ask the receptionist for the key to room 45. Room 45. That was good to know. He wondered how long she was staying, how much time he had to carry out his plan. He so wanted to see Arturo's face when they called him to tell him his beautiful one-night stand was dead. To see his grief when they told him she'd been killed in the exact same way as his beloved Flavia 20 years ago.
End of sneak peek for Under Her Skin, a bad boy billionaire romance. Please like and subscribe to support this channel, it helps more than you know.